work this burp out. Oop, almost got it. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, November 28th. God, but one day I'll know this date. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Underdog. 8-game slate. We have gotten a little bit of news. We have a little bit more value than we had before. This is a weird slate. Very weird for an 8-gamer. Kind of excited for it. Not going to be excited for the late night hammer of Golden State and Sacramento, but we will get there in a bit. First and foremost, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, what's up?
Yeah, I'm with you as far as like this slate's pretty ugly and weird. And I mentioned it on my lineup generator video. I think slates like this are really fun to play. Yeah. They are difficult to talk about. Like there's not going to be a lot of, oh, I really like this guy for that reason on this slate, because a lot of these matchups are pretty ugly. A lot of teams are at full strength, all of that. But I think slates like that are pretty fun to play. It makes our job easier when you can just be like, hey, play a bunch of DeAndre Jordan because he's going to play exactly like Nikola Jokic. But everybody else is doing that too. Like it's more difficult to win those slates.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fun one, honestly. As long as we don't get any like true nonsense in the next hour, or next 2 hours, I guess. Pretty excited for the fact that this is like a balanced slate. You got to make some decisions on.
How many lineups are you playing tonight?
It was 50. 91. Yeah. So news that we got today, Jimmy Butler is out. Unrelated, well, relevant for today, but we already knew this. Looks like LaMelo Ball is going to be out for a pretty extended amount of time with that ankle injury, which sucks. I like watching him play. He makes the Hornets way more entertaining, and they got a lot of young talent that I'm a fan of, or at least I like watching play basketball. Maybe I'm not a huge fan of them. Nicholas Lynn hit us with the super chat right out of the gate. This is going to be a real terrible answer. Is Luka too expensive to lock tonight? Well, you shouldn't be locking anybody, probably, unless you can find all of those lineups that are all positive ROI. So I guess you can lock whatever you want. No, but also depends how much you're playing. If lock is a 3 max, then no. But at the same time, I don't really know how to answer that question. Do you?
No, I think you said it best. Like if we're talking lock, as in like you're playing one lineup or 3 lineups or something, obviously it's more reasonable than if you're playing 150, but you shouldn't be going into building lineups with the thought process of locking anybody. You should be finding quality lineups and seeing what you have in those.
20 max.
I doubt that would show up.
Yeah.
The way I view it is basically no matter what your process is, unless you manually lock Luka, he's probably not going to be in all 20 of your lineups. And I don't see any reason that you would just lock Luka.
Agreed. You ready to talk some basketball?
Yep. Got logged out of the site, but yeah.
Well, there you go. That's probably not going to help you. No. Just throwing that out there. Chicago Bulls, 13-point dogs on the road in Boston, 219 total. Q tag on Caruso, Q tag on Levine, Q tag on Drew Holiday. This one is important for the Boston Celtics. I can't even talk. In season tournament standing. So for the Celtics for today, they are pretty far behind in the point differential situation. They need to win and win by I don't know, more than the spread as of right now. I think it's 16 off the top of my head. I could be wrong. But anyway, they need to win and cover at a minimum to qualify for the next round of the in-season tournament. So Boston might step on the gas a little bit.
We get to see DeMar DeRozan cry about teams running up the score again.
Tatum said he didn't like it too, actually, which is interesting.
Yeah.
People are dumb, dude.
I've never understood that one. Stop them.
You're grown adults. This isn't 7th and 8th grade basketball.
Yeah, you are a professional basketball player. It should be within your skill set to not let them score.
Boston can win the group if they beat the Bulls by at least 23, and Brooklyn's margin of victory over Toronto is at least 8 points smaller than Boston's. And then I think there's another path for the wild card, but I can't begin to care enough. 12% ownership to Andre Drummond. Nope, I don't think I grabbed our updated ownership. What do you want to do with the Bulls?
I love how you act like they care. Obviously, it's going to depend on the individual players, how much they care. Plenty of them have said, like, yeah, we're competitive people, and this is something we can win. And if you've paid attention at all to these games, you've very often seen starters staying in till the end of games in non-competitive games because of point differential. It's something like you don't have to pay that close of attention. If you're just even sweating your lineups, it's very easy to be like, okay, well, this guy's doing well, but he's going to lose the last 4 minutes of the game to garbage time. Then it's like, oh, he played all the way to the end. Most of these teams are pretty actively caring.
Yeah. Not to mention, other than like the LeBrons and $50 million people of the world that don't need this money, lots of these dudes would like to grab 500 grand for winning the damn tournament.
Yeah.
Like, it's most of the team wants to win the tournament.
Yeah, I feel like that's
a couple guys like probably are indifferent. They just want to win in general.
I feel like that goes overlooked because like rookie like I don't really know NBA contracts in detail, but like rookie scale guys are still not making that much money. And it's something like, and this is NFL obviously, but it was something that, kind of caught me off guard the other day. Amon-Ra St. Brown got fined like $45,000 and he tweeted out and was like, yo, this is 5% of my salary. Yeah. And in my head, I was just like, he makes less than $1 million a year, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Like Desunmu, even like Kobe White, Javon Carter, Torrey Craig, even Patrick Williams, who's on, whatever, 4th pick in the draft, probably makes 7-8 million just off the top of my head. Like 500,000 still a shit ton of money, and like proportionally to that. Right. So yeah, a lot of these guys really care. Not to mention, like, I'm sure most of these guys are like, cool, I can go buy a brand new watch or something,
right? And also the thing that, like I said it a minute ago, and like some of the players have said it, but these guys are hyper competitive people.
There's a reason they're in this industry,
right? You tell them they can win something, and oh, by the way, you also get $500,000 for winning. A lot of them are going to be pretty motivated.
Yeah, they like, for the large majority of these guys, you kind of need to be wired differently to get here.
Right.
Like if you're the 200th best NBA player, but you're not wired like that, you are going to get lapped by the 300th most talented NBA player that actually cares. Anyway, Bulls, 11% ownership to Drummond is the high mark. It's the only double-digit mark across the Bulls on DraftKings or FanDuel. I have 11% of Vooch, which I hate, 7% of Drummond, which is whatever. I have very little of this team because they are probably the worst option on today's slate, unless we lose Alex Caruso and Zach LaVine.
Right. If those guys are in, it's really tough. I mean, you have a really difficult matchup against Boston, really good defensive team, massive underdogs. Pricing here isn't egregiously expensive. You can certainly make a case for taking shots at DeRozan at 7,300 or Vooch at 72 or LaVine at 74 with shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Any of that stuff is fine, but none of them are going to stand out as priorities or anything more than just the last guy in that gives you some upside in tournaments at low ownership. The only guy really getting ownership at all is Drummond coming in at 11%, 14% chance of being optimal. And that just speaks to how bad the value is today. We have him projected for 15.8 DraftKings points and a 14% chance of being optimal. He's going to show up some, but you're also you can't get that excited about a dude that is just strictly playing backup minutes to Vooch.
Your boy poker player,
so it's like you're probably not getting a full 4th quarter of Andre Drummond blowout run or something. They're going to go to like Terry Taylor.
Your boy poker player Eric wants me to check the injury reports. Do you feel like people are sitting out a lot this season? Because I don't feel like they are.
No, I think it's been amplified by people getting hurt in warmups.
Yeah, like I don't feel like we have had a lot of rest for people.
No,
I really think LeBron sat one game?
Yeah, I think he sat one. I think it's been a lot more. I think it's getting over exaggerated because we've had so much just weird. They got hurt in warmups type shit.
Yeah,
which isn't rest. They got hurt in warmups.
Yeah, I don't Yeah, Zion does, but at the same time, he's been unhealthy for 4 years. Maybe you don't just let him rip. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, what do we do here if Caruso and or Levine is out? If Caruso, let's say Caruso is out, do we get to Patrick Williams at 4,200?
Probably. The minutes should be there. There's not a lot of good value on this slate. It's still going to be a disgusting play. You're not like hoping that Alex Caruso gets ruled out so that Patrick Williams opens up, but it's certainly going to be a play that you get to, as is the Sunmu and potentially taking some shots at a 3K Carter.
Now, obviously, like Caruso being out, I don't think really matters to Levine or Vooch or DeRozan. Levine being out, that is a bump to DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. How do you think they look if we lose Levine?
I think it looked better, but it's still just so tough in the spot. You're going to get a little bit better projection, but it sort of reminds me, it's not apples to apples, but of the Michael Porter Jr. thing last night, where like we know Levine we know DeRozan can create, but you're just going to get more focus from this Boston defense on those guys. They're going to have more opportunities, but the efficiency most likely is going to take a hit in the spot.
Drew Holiday in, Derek White in, Cam Johnson available to play. Yeah, I think what we're really just waiting on is turning $4,200 small forward, power forward Patrick Williams into another Cody Martin, Caleb Martin type play today. How did I get the wrong Martin? Cody Martin's barely played in a year and a half.
I haven't done that in a couple of years, but I have done that before.
When they're both
not with those two. I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody on Memphis. It was several years ago, but I just like clicked in the wrong guy many times.
DSJ out. Let's go to Boston then. Now that we know Drew is in, 6% ownership to Tatum on DraftKings is the highest amount of ownership across DraftKings and FanDuel for Boston. I got to 5% of Tatum, and I think that's about the extent of what I can do here. Hard to get to the Boston side either. Is it good for them? Sure. But this is a pretty bleak game, 219 total.
Yeah, and none of the pricing really stands out. I'd rather get to like Jaylen Brown than Levine if I can, but he's more expensive. I think the plus for Boston is what we were just talking about before, where point differential matters. And if they are running away with this game, they do have incentive to leave their guys in and really run away with this game, which is nice. But that's still only going to get you so far from a fantasy standpoint. So I think they're pretty similar to Chicago in the sense that you're happy getting to Tatum or Brown or Drew or any of the starters really, but their prices are where they should be. They're all, for the most part, going slightly under owned. 6% chance of being optimal for Brown, 4% ownership, but that's still a 6% chance of being optimal. Just low probability guys that are serviceable contrarian plays because they are getting virtually no ownership.
Is there anything that you can do to put weight on Boston trying to win this game big? Is this actionable to us?
That's sort of what I was just saying. I don't really think so. It basically, the way I'm viewing it is, if you wanted to project an extra minute for these guys, sure, I think that would be reasonable. Yeah. I'm basically viewing it as if I get to these Boston guys, I do feel a little bit better just because there's probably a little bit less blowout risk because they'll just stay in the game. But I don't really think you can do a whole lot with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard. I think it's more applicable for like if two teams are both playing to win and get into and to win their group, where you can see both sides of that being a little bit more active for starters. For this one, it's just like, all right, Boston has to win, be up by like 18, and then we still hope that Tatum is playing more minutes.
Right.
All right, at that point, he's already probably done some of that work.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Toronto. 2-point dogs in Brooklyn, 222 total. On the Toronto side, 9% ownership to Jakob Poeltl is the high mark on DraftKings. Pascal Siakam is 21% owned on FanDuel, where he's 7,900. We don't have too much to read into here. For the Raptors side, everybody's available. For Brooklyn, Nick Claxton is available. Cam Johnson is probable. And then we just got the news that DSJ is out. Don't really think that is all that important. Do you see anything interesting from Toronto? Because I don't.
Not really. That FanDuel price tag on Siakam certainly looks good, but on DraftKings, this team looks like the Bulls and it looks like Boston to me. Siakam, Barnes, Poeltl, Schroeder, Anunoby, they're all fine. They're all projected, or most of them are projected to be a little bit underowned. Schroeder, the most, 7% chance of being optimal, 4% ownership. I was getting quite a bit of him this morning. I'm rerunning stuff now, but I don't think I'm going to get as much now just because Miami changed. So I don't expect to get to like 22% Schroeder or whatever I had. It's still a fine price tag. You know, you have Siakam, who's been playing a bit better. Barnes been playing a bit worse. Their prices are pretty much converging. Neither one's getting ownership on DraftKings. They're both good players that can certainly have a good game, but it's just a healthy team that's correctly priced.
Yeah, I got 4% of Jakob Poeltl, 2 of Pascal Siakam, and 1 of OG Anunoby. Kind of bleak. Kind of bleak. And then for Brooklyn, 11% ownership to Cam Johnson is the high mark on DraftKings. Everything else is single digits. 15% to Mikal Bridges on FanDuel, 13 to Spencer Dinwiddie. I am getting someone here. I've got quite a bit of Cam Johnson. $6,100 power forward. He is in 37% of my lineups right now.
Yeah, I think he looks like the best option here. I thought he looked like the best option this morning, and nothing's really changed that. 6,100 is a good price tag. He is apparently healthy after leaving last game early. He's not a bad point per minute guy. He should play 30 plus minutes, most likely. 11% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. I think he's just going to fit pretty easily into lineups as a relatively inexpensive forward who is better at basketball than somebody like Caleb Martin. Not to say that you can't just play them together. I'm sure you're going to get that a lot. But I think Ford is a position where, in general, you're going to be spending down today, and it's going to be going to a lot of these Miami guys. Cam Johnson's a little bit more expensive, but he's also quite a bit better.
Yes, he is. Fantasy point per minute, dude. Normally 0.99 over the past 30 days. I got him at a fantasy point per minute today for 31 minutes. So yeah, there's not much else here though. You get Bridges, you get Claxton, you get Spencer Dinwiddie. Like that's all fine. Getting starters is okay. None of them grade out as exceptional options.
Yeah, the rest of the team to me looks like every other team we've talked about, where there's nothing wrong with Dinwiddie, Bridges, Claxton, but they're just priced correctly. They're getting more or less the correct amount of ownership. So there's not a lot there's not a lot that differentiates them from 50 other guys today.
There we go. Well, through the first 2 games, hit that like button to the 2,000 of you that are here today. You can tell there's no NFL football, or just football in general, I guess I should have said. 200 plus likes already. So keep hitting that thumbs up. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next at 6:30. They will take you all the way up until lock at 7:30. But I got to tell you guys, Cyber Monday deal ends tonight. If you don't take advantage of this one now, you will not have this deal when you wake up in the morning. $4.95 for the NBA lineup generator or the NFL lineup generator, if that's more your bag. Either direction is fine. This is the best tool for the large majority of people that are listening to this show. It's the easiest price point that we could offer to anybody. And I think it's the tool that's going to create the biggest gap between where you are using nothing at Stochastic and stepping into Stochastic. We generate thousands of lineups on the back end. We drop all the ones that aren't any good. We present the rest to you. Click save if you like it. Click discard if you don't. Another lineup will just pop up on the screen for you. But you can choose a chalky build, a contrarian build, a balanced build. You can lock a player in, swap them around if you want. You'll see our projections and our ownership, optimal rates. All that information will be right there. Fantastic on mobile as well. You can export up to 20 via CSV. This is what I think it's the best thing that we offer across the board. I think people should sign up for The Sims for sure. That's a $200 price point. I understand that people are going to have some trouble with that one on a month-to-month basis. This really is the best way to get a little bit more bang for your buck. $4.95 is the cost of a coffee at Starbucks. Now you can get the NBA lineup generator for a week. Come check it out. Get in to the ecosystem of Stochastic.com. Link in chat or in the description. Final night. This is it. It all goes away. Promo code is CYBER. Here we go. Atlanta Hawks. 4-point dogs in Cleveland, 237 total. 14% ownership coming in to Bogdan Bogdanovic. 10 to Onyeka Okongwu, single digits across the board. They are the two guys. Well, actually, no, I read that wrong. 10% to Sadiq Bey on FanDuel. I thought that was Okongwu. They're just next to each other in my sheet. I really don't have much of Atlanta here. This is a pretty sizable pace down spot for Atlanta against a really good defense. This is a tough one for the Hawks, even missing Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, I think that Bogdanovic looks marginally better without Johnson. You and I were talking about it this morning. I think he'd been around like a 26-minute guy projection-wise for me. prior. Now probably like 28 makes sense. He's 5,700 shooting guard, small forward. He's the only guy on this team on DraftKings above 10% owned and above 10% in terms of being optimal on DraftKings. He looks fine. Still doesn't look like somebody that I expect to have tons of. I'm interested in Okongwu just because we don't have a lot of value on this slate. He's in his normal price range at 4,800. He's only pulling 10% ownership. You get the 25, 26 minute Okongwu game and he looks good like always. Same goes for Capella at 5,700. If you get the 27-minute Capella game, he's going to look pretty good. But like you said, this is a very unappealing matchup against Cleveland. So whereas most of the time Atlanta looks like one of the best teams on the slate, they don't look nearly as good today. And then you also have Trae Young at an elevated price tag now at 9,700 on DraftKings, going under owned 7% chance of being optimal to 4% ownership. But, again, just 7%. Like there's going to be a lot of guys that look like that. Sadiq Bey's price already jumped like $1,000 on DraftKings too.
I'll let you handle this super chat from Jake Linland. Good chalk and bad chalk for FanDuel.
I have no idea. Like that's not how I think about anything.
No. I assume all of the chalk is good chalk because they're the best plays.
Generally not going to be bad chalk. It's just the plays that project the best. It's a matter of figuring out how you can make your lineups in a way that projects well and still, has a path to winning tournaments. But I think one of the easiest ways to get better is to stop thinking in those terms at all.
Yep. All of those guys at the top that are getting a bunch of ownership, you should be playing them because they're the best plays. Should you play the top 9 dudes in ownership in a 20,000 person GPP? Probably not. But that's where it starts to get a little bit different. And that difference can come from any of them. So it's hard to dig into that one in any other way. Apologies for that, but that's really the honest answer to that question.
I mean, it's like you and I talk about it a lot. You can make a ton of really good lineups that contain a lot of any popular player. It's just a matter of what the rest of those lineups look like.
Yes, it is.
Like it's 2023 NBA DFS. The field is really good. There might be once or twice a year where somehow like every site is projecting someone's minutes way wrong or in a way that like we think is way wrong. And like it literally happens maybe once or twice.
The Cleveland side of this one looks quite a bit different. 25% ownership to Darius Garland, 15 to Mobley, right around that to Jared Allen, just 6 to Donovan Mitchell. I have a very different stand on Cleveland. I am 2xing Darius Garland. I have 25% Donovan Mitchell, 27% Evan Mobley, neutral to the field on your boy, Jared Allen. Ooh, Haywood Highsmith out. That's
Robinson available.
That's making this one look even weirder, but we will get to Miami in a bit. I love the Cleveland side here. Atlanta defense is terrible. They are one of the fastest paced teams in the league. This is a giant boon to Cleveland.
Yeah, they look great, and they are getting ownership. Darius Garland coming in at 24%, 20% chance of being optimal at 7,200 on DraftKings. Certainly looks good there. If you wanted to make a case against him, there are always good point guard options that he's getting a lot of ownership, whereas they're not. But that's a good price tag, good matchup. Jared Allen at 12%, certainly happy to go there. Had a ton of him the other night against the Lakers. I'll probably have a good amount here. I know this morning I was getting around 22, 24% of him. 6,400 still a fair price tag for him. The playing time hasn't necessarily been exactly where you want it all season long, but it's still Jared Allen. You should still be assuming that over by the end of the season, you're just looking back at Jared Allen as like, yeah, he's typically playing 30 plus minutes and producing a bunch of fantasy points. So I think 6,400 does still offer some value there, especially in this matchup. Mobley at 7,600, power forward eligible, 15% owned, no problems with that. Mitchell's a nice tournament play. He's more difficult to get to than Garland, Mobley, Allen because of the $9,200 salary, but 5% owned Donovan Mitchell against the Hawks, like no issues with that either.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have 25%. I feel fantastic about that. If he's that low owned, this is going to look a lot like Kawhi did for me. I mean, it's a different play, but like just looking at it, like it's really low owned. And I have a ton. Like I don't love it, but like he's good. Like he's not. I'm not playing a shit ton of a garbage dude at low ownership. It feels a lot better.
Yeah. So now that I'm done saying why I think it's such a good spot for Cleveland, I'm not getting
0. Go for it.
I have 21% Jared Allen again. So I'm getting over the field on Allen. I like that. I only have 8% Garland. I have 8% Mitchell. So not a big number, but it is higher than the field. I only have 3% Mobley. I still chalk this up to, and this kind of goes back to that question and why there's not like a good answer for it. I think Darius Garland is good chalk. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with Darius Garland. If you told me Darius Garland, so like I said, I have 8% Garland at 24% owned. If you told me Darius Garland was going to be 8% owned, I would be playing Darius Garland in like every lineup. So he's very clearly a good play. The problem, and probably the reason that I'm not getting to a lot of Cleveland, I'm going to check this now, but I'm getting a lot of Miami, which the field is also going to get. Miami's like the most obvious value spot right now. So if I'm putting these Miami guys into a high percentage of my lineups, I'm then in a position where I already have popular guys in my lineups, and then I'm going to put in a 25% owned Garland or a 15% owned Mobley, and suddenly you're running out of ways to be different than the field. And so that's sort of the problem. It's that I'm using the Miami value at the expense of Garland, essentially. That's not that Garland is a bad play. You could very easily make the case, yeah, Caleb Martin projects well, but Caleb Martin also sucks and he's popular. So I'm going to play anybody else that is 5% owned and the same price as Caleb Martin. And then I'm going to play Darius Garland. So like you can make a good lineup either way. But for me right now, the only guy on Cleveland that I have double-digit exposure to is Jared Allen.
That's wild. Yeah, like if you look down and saw that you had my 52% of Garland, you'd be like, that'll work. This is a great spot.
Yeah, wouldn't have any issue with it at all. As far as Atlanta goes, just to kind of double back to them, City Bay, 17%. I have 11% of both, or 10 to 11% of both Okongwu and Capella. 9% Bogdanovich, 6% Trey. So nothing too crazy there.
Can't imagine you have much in those previous games.
I have 21% Dinwiddie, 12% Bridges.
Okay.
11% Claxton, 10% Cam Johnson.
All right.
13% Jaylen Brown. But yeah, so nothing too crazy in the other games, but getting to them a little bit more than I expected. But again, this just goes back to what I was just saying, I think. If you're not playing Darius Garland, you have salary and roster spots to be playing more Mikal Bridges, more Spencer Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie's a perfect example. He's the same exact price as Garland. I absolutely think Darius Garland is a better play from a projection standpoint, if you give me even odds and tell me to pick one, I'm taking Darius Garland every time. But Spencer Dinwiddie's getting like 1/3 the ownership, and we have him basically half as likely to be optimal. So that's just a spot where I can say, okay, I'm going to play Spencer Dinwiddie at the same rate that people are playing Darius Garland. And I'm going to play Darius Garland at the same rate that people are playing Spencer Dinwiddie. And now I just solved my contrarian issue in a nice chunk of lineups.
That simple, folks. We're telling you the truth here. Anything else for Cleveland?
No.
The Milwaukee Bucks are 4-point favorites in Miami, 228 total. Highest owned guy on Milwaukee is 4% Brook Lopez. It's 8% Middleton on FanDuel. I have one share of Dame. As weird as this is to say, Milwaukee might be the worst team on the slate.
Yeah, I have 1% Middleton, 1% Connaughton, 1% Barolo, and that's all that I have on DraftKings. Middleton is priced a little bit more favorably on FanDuel. Just be aware of the risks with Middleton. We've talked about it all season long that tools.
By the way, we don't even know if he's in yet. He's still questionable.
Right, he's questionable. But we've talked all season long that tools are not exactly equipped to handle somebody that does not have any like right tail variance in their playing time. And Middleton was finally breaking out of that, and then he got hurt last game. So my assumption is if he plays, he's probably not just running back out there for 30 minutes. And so we're back to this situation where if you just treat him like every other player, he's going to look pretty good at that price. If you adjust for the fact that he's probably going to be relatively limited, he looks okay at that price.
As we go to Miami.
Middleton's playing.
Okay, perfect.
Caruso's playing, Levine's playing.
Perfect. I didn't want to deal with that one. We got to deal with Miami, though. Prior to this show starting, 30% ownership to Kevin Love. I had to Kyle Lowry. I had 79. 15% to Kevin Love. 14% to Josh Richardson. I had 65. 36 to Jaime Jaquez. I have 85. 38 to Caleb Martin. I have 43. Only 5% of Bam. Didn't have any Haywood Highsmith. Things might change there. Didn't have any Duncan Robinson. Everybody else that I'm mentioning wasn't owned. The biggest thing that I think we need to talk about now that Haywood Highsmith is out is 3K shooting guard Jamal Cain now a major thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that becomes interesting, especially when we don't really have value on this slate. This team's obviously extremely shorthanded.
Yeah.
And obviously everything I ran was with Highsmith in, but
Right.
I expect to be getting him now.
Yeah, so do I. And I was already getting to everything else from Miami because I don't really see a choice. I personally think that Jaime Jaquez is the best option here until I run this stuff with Kane, but I'm anxious to hear what you were getting from Miami.
I'm getting to them. I'm not getting them nearly as aggressively as you, or in some cases the field. I have 7 different guys from Miami in at least 10% of my lineups. I had 8 total guys because I had a little bit of Highsmith, but Caleb Martin's my highest guy at 35% on DraftKings, 30% Lowry, then a little bit of a drop off, 18% Love, 17% Richardson, 15% Jaquez, 11% Robinson, 10% Bam. So I am getting there. I'm a little bit over the field on Bam. I'm around the field on Martin and Lowry. I'm under the field on Jaquez. I think he's a good play, but he is 5,400. I was a little bit over the field on Robinson and Love and Richardson. So I'm mostly around the field, slightly over on Miami. The exception is that I am under on Jaquez right now, but obviously this is all going to change. It's the spot where you should be getting to this team in the aggregate a ton, just because there's a lot of cheap guys here. There's not a lot of cheap good plays on the slate, but there's just still none of them, or not many of them, that I want to just be jamming in tons of lineups, because the pricing is cheap for the most part, but not free. We're not talking about like a $3,300 Caleb Martin. He's still 4,500. You know, if the guy goes for like 23 fantasy points, you're still not going to be happy about it. Same with Jaquez at 5,400. He's playing a bunch of minutes and he's going to look good, but we do have him projected to be a bit overowned. We have him with a 36% chance, or 36% ownership, only 15% chance of being optimal at a 28, a little bit over a 28 point projection.
So, how many minutes?
I don't know. 32.
I think we're light.
Well, I think we are now.
Well, he's a 0.87 guy on the season this year. This is a massive pace up spot for Miami against a bad defense. He should just project better than that. Yeah, if we believe in him being a 0.87 guy.
We're I think pretty in line with everywhere.
Yeah, I think he should be around a fantasy point per minute in this spot.
Yeah, then you're higher than me. I've been like 28.5.
Yeah, and I went 31 minutes here. But, we're talking about a pace for Miami normally around 98. Milwaukee is 102. And Milwaukee's defense is dreadful.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not dreadful. Dreadful for like a real team.
Right. Yeah, they're not the Hornets or the Wizards.
No. So, I think Jaquez is the best thing that you can get to from Miami, barring me rerunning Kane here and finding out that that's going to be like an issue. 3K, generic dudes that could play like 24 minutes start to become problematic for all sorts of different reasons. But either way, like, you're loading up on Miami in some way.
Yeah.
I'm pretty unavoidable.
With the idea of not really taking major stands on Miami, because most of the available players do suck, at least the ones that are at prices that are reasonable. Like Bam, I would love to get as much Bam as I can, but the dude's expensive and we haven't gotten to Şengün yet, but Şengün plays today.
Yes.
So like I'm pretty happy with the way they look. I wouldn't mind having more Jaquez, just because I do agree that he's a good play. But he just kind of looks like he's probably the most overowned guy here for me. And also just very replaceable, because there are other cheap forward options, where I can just pay down there and then pay up at other spots.
I think it's in our best interest to keep moving off of this one. Live Before Lock is going to have a lot more information on how this rotation is going to look, and we just don't have it right now. So,
and Jamal Cain is going to become a thing, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Given the minutes that he played in the last one and the fact that he's flat 3K, it would be hard for him not to, but we shall see. Underdog is the sponsor of this show. If you would like a first match deposit bonus of up to $100, you are in luck. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this video. Underdog has everything you could really ask for in terms of a site. Pick'em contests for anybody that's in non-legal betting states. That sounds great. Daily fantasy contests, just straight up DFS-like contests with large field GPPs. Best ball, you've certainly heard Underdog be talked about in the best ball streets. And they have playoff drafts, which is just really fun, gives you an extra thing to do during the playoffs. You can really just get a lot of different things done at underdog. And you also have the ability to get a first match deposit bonus, doubling your money up to $100. It's really that easy. Even if you don't care about all the things that I just mentioned, putting in 100 and getting another 100, that should be the main benefit for you. Click the link in the description if you can, and if you want to sign up at underdog. You got to be 18 or over. Some other states, it's even more than that. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Charlotte Hornets, 11.5-point dogs in New York, 220 total. 12% ownership coming into Terry Rozier. 8 to Bridges, 7 to Brandon Miller. No LaMelo Ball for the extended future. 34% ownership coming into Gordon Hayward on FanDuel at 5,700. He's just a great play there. I'm a little bit lighter now on Terry Rozier than I was earlier. I have 18%, but I don't like a lot on Charlotte. This looks a lot like Milwaukee does for Miami, other than Rozier just being in a role that he's not normally in for, but pace down spot against a great defense.
Yeah, my Rozier basically disappeared. He's still getting 12% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. I only have about 3% right now. I have 9% Brandon Miller, 7% Miles Bridges. So right around the field on those guys. I'm at like 1 to 2% Hayward on DraftKings. He looks much better on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings. But Rozier is the only guy getting double-digit ownership here. He's a good play at 7,400 playing without LaMelo. You know, you and I talked about it this morning. If he's in a different matchup, he's one of the most popular guys on this slate. But he's not. He's facing one of the slowest teams in the league, one of the best defenses in the league. The Knicks have an incentive to score 1 million points here too. Not that really matters, but
yeah,
it really matters for Rozier. But it's a tough spot. I think he's a fine play, but I'm just getting to some other guys. Yeah. This kind of goes back to what we were saying at the top of the show. These slates are very difficult to talk about, but I like slates where the relatively popular guys are good plays in Rozier or Garland, whoever, but they're not like slam dunk. These guys are 2K less than they should be.
Right. You said you don't have a ton of Rozier?
I have 3%.
Okay. I didn't know when we got there if you were going to end up having a ton of Rozier instead of Garland, since since Rozier is like half the ownership.
Yeah, that would have been a very reasonable way to go, I think.
Yeah. Now, Knicks side, 15% ownership to Quickly, around 15 to Brunson, 20 to Robinson, 20 to Barrett, 10 to Julius Randle. I am locked and loaded on RJ Barrett, which makes me sick. 5,900. He's 20% owned. I have many multiples of that. Mitchell Robinson, I'm 2Xing. Pretty neutral to the rest of these guys, but much like Miami, although for different reasons, New York has the benefit of facing a not all that great defense at a much higher pace. This is a great spot for the Knicks.
Yeah, great spot for the Knicks. Also, point differential does matter for them tonight, which is nice. I'm around the field on most of these guys on DraftKings. I'm getting 21% Robinson at 21% owned. I have 20.7% Robinson, and he is projected for 20.7% ownership. So I am getting to the field on Robinson, but 5,200, just a very good price tag for him in this spot. I'm getting to about 17% Barrett. He's 19% owned. Small forward, power forward, 5,900 just looks like a good play. 10% Quickly, so a little bit under the field there, but still getting a decent amount of him at 5,300. Very fair price tag. 7% Brunson, 2% apiece on Randle and Hart. Randle looks much better on FanDuel, 8,200 there compared to 8,700 on DraftKings. Still a perfectly good play on DraftKings. 1.18 DraftKings points per minute for the season. A good matchup, pace up spot, even if they do end up playing a bit slower without LaMelo. Worst defense in the league so far in terms of defensive rating. So Randle's going to look good on either site. I'm just having trouble getting to him on DraftKings. I think he is much easier to get to on FanDuel.
Just out of curiosity, how much RJ Barrett do you think I have?
65.
Ooh, coming in light. 70. We'll see what that ends up looking like by the end of the night. We just freed up even more salary with Miami, so we'll see how that ends up shaking out. But look, 5,900 small forward, power forward. Because of the way that this slate looks, I really think there's a lot of value in guys that have these MPEs at like reasonable price tags where you can just move them around in the lineups a lot easier. And RJ Barrett is one of those dudes. Do I wish it was shooting guard, small forward? I absolutely do. But 5,900, I'll take my chances here against Charlotte.
I can't figure out what I'm doing at guard because Jalen Brunson's another one. He's 13% owned. He's 8,200. He's in a good spot. I love the play, and I have 7%. I think I'm just not getting many guards in this range. I think I'm going cheap at guard with like Lowry, Conley, guys like that, and then
I can't wait till we get to whatever team it is, and you're like, "Oh, I found it."
No, while we were talking, I went through the rest of the teams. Like, what guard am I
don't do that.
jamming
You gotta unwrap these things like presents, man. We need to find out what you're getting as you see it. That's way more fun. Oklahoma City Thunder, 3-point dogs in Minnesota, 229 total. There is basically no ownership coming in here to Oklahoma City. 6% to Shea, 5% to Jalen Williams without the Y. There's no ownership on the FanDuel end either. I'm hoping some of this value would get me to Shea, but I also don't really want to attack this Minnesota team.
Yeah, and Jalen Williams being back. I mean, Shea is still great, but there is a big disparity between what Shea has done with Jalen Williams on the floor, both this year and since the start of last year, and what he has done without him. So that does hurt as well. He's my highest owned guy from OKC, but that's still 5% Shea, 5% Jalen Williams, 1% apiece on Chet, Dort. I have a Kenrich Williams lineup. Just very tough to get to this team. Like when I was, looking through to try and see who I was playing at guard tonight, I was certainly hoping that I somehow had found a way to get a lot of Shea, but I didn't. And this team's just tough to get to. Minnesota is one of the best defensive teams in the league. It's just a pretty unappealing spot. And it's not like the prices here are super favorable. 10-5 for SGA. He's earned it, but it's adjusted. Like that's just where he should be priced.
Cheyenne hit us with the super chat. Minutes for Ish Smith. I'm honestly having trouble remembering what team Ish Smith is on right now. Charlotte? Yeah. 17, 18, something like that. Are him or Theo or Teo Maladon viable on FanDuel? I would say no.
Yeah, I think I have like 17, 18 minutes on Ish.
Yeah.
And like none on Teo.
Same. I would not.
If you were going to one, it would be Ish, I think.
Yeah. I don't think this is this like that's got to be like the 75th best option today if I had to guess. And then Jake Lindland with the super chat. FanDuel, Garland and Brooks, or Fred VanVleet and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. This is the perfect opportunity for Jordan to pull up the NBA DFS player compare tool, which is free on Stokastic.com. Compare two players against each other and get that answer. That is what you're looking for, Jake, because the answer to us is whichever one you choose, and it depends what's around them. But the Stokastic NBA player compare tool, which you can get to from the tools menu at Stokastic.com, totally free. Pop those names into the list. It will give you everything you want, projections and ownership, optimal rates, etc. That will give you the answer you are looking for. Minnesota.
Also, my answer would probably be Garland and Brooks.
So would mine. 19% ownership coming into Ant, 10 to Towns, Reed, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 19 to Gobert. I had a lot more of these guys earlier today. I'm still close to 2x the field on Gobert, but I basically have a little bit of all of Minnesota.
Yeah, Gobert's come down a little bit for me, but I still have 28%. So, 1.5 times the field on him. I have 26% Reed, who's getting 12% ownership. Doesn't feel great, but he's 4,300. He is power forward eligible. He's a good enough point per minute guy. Hopefully, things break my way there. 26% Conley. I kind of mentioned him a minute ago that I think I'm just getting to these like 5 to 6K guards. Conley's only getting 6% ownership. I have 26%. So that is a spot where, it's a guard that I'm taking a stand on.
Yeah.
He's not a high usage guy. He's around 12 to 13% for the season, but he's still relatively productive for his salary, giving you around 0.85 DraftKings points per minute. And the salary just opens stuff up. Now, very possible that with the addition of Jamal Cain to lineups, I don't need as much $5,600 Conley, but don't know. Right now, I'm getting to him at pretty low ownership, which is fine. I'm getting to 25% Anthony Edwards, so I'm a bit over the field there at 8,900. Only a shooting guard on DraftKings sucks. If he had small forward eligibility, I assume I would have more. He does still have small forward eligibility on FanDuel. He's a little bit more expensive there, but he's going to look good on either site. I have 19% Alexander Walker at 4,600 shooting guard, small forward. So that's a change from this morning where, that's another guy that I'm using probably mostly in forward spots, but also potentially as a cheap guard. I'm getting to 12% Cat, which is pretty much in line with the field. And then very small amounts of Shake Milton and Kyle Anderson. But this team is certainly up there as far as one of my highest owned teams.
Yeah, I'm happy to get it.
I am
to a degree.
I'm at least slightly over the field on 6 different guys on Minnesota.
Okay.
All the starters plus Reed.
Well, let's see how you feel about the Houston Rockets. 4-point dogs in Dallas, 228 total. 29% ownership coming into Şengün, 18 to Van Vliet, 21 to Jabari Smith, 21 to Jalen Green. My guess is that you're getting Houston and not Cleveland, and I'm getting Cleveland and not Houston.
I am getting Houston, kind of. Like I'm definitely getting them. Şengün's one of my highest owned guys. I have 46% Şengün on DraftKings. He's projected for 29% ownership. So this is another example of the whole chalk question.
Yeah.
The less Darius Garland I play, the more Alperen Şengün I can play, and vice versa. They're just going to sort of have that relationship.
I don't have Şengün, so
yeah, Şengün looks like a big priority to me. He's averaging about 32.5 minutes per game this season. He's averaging 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. Big pace-up spot against Dallas. Terrible Dallas defense. And the added bonus that you talked about this morning, don't know what Houston's rotation will look like tonight, obviously, but the last time they played was an in-season tournament game. Şengün led the team with 43 minutes. I'm not suggesting he's playing 43 minutes again, but every starter except for Brooks played at least 36 minutes in that game. Brooks played 30, and obviously he can play more as well. Houston looks like they care. They're going for it.
Yeah.
So barring injury, foul trouble, Şengün's probably playing a lot of minutes here. And even if he just plays his normal 33, he's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy at 8,500. He looks great to me. Other than that, though, I'm getting to Houston, just not really different or above the field. I have 19% Jabari Smith. The field's at 21%, 5,900 power forward. If you're not playing Jabari Smith, I assume it's just all RJ Barrett for you. They are the same salary. So, that's probably, I'm getting similar amounts of the two of them. I'm getting 17% Jalen Green. Fields at 21%, 6,400 just looks pretty good. Certainly another guy that could just benefit from the rotations here if they run it similar to last time. Van Vliet's pulling 18% ownership. I'm only getting 9. Again, I'm just having trouble getting to this range of guards, I think, salary-wise. Yeah. But Van Vliet is playing big minutes. He looks good. I have 7% Eason, 5% apiece of Brooks and Tate. Eason and Tate are just kind of guys that are there. You're not expecting much out of them. I wouldn't be upset if I had gotten more Brooks. I had a ton of him this morning. It kind of went away. But, played 30 minutes last game. Certainly can play more. It's Dylan Brooks, so he's going to be inconsistent in terms of his scoring, but he does give you stock upside. He does give you 3-point upside. He is only getting 7% ownership right now. So I think he looks fine, but right now I'm just not getting too much of him. Şengün is the clear priority for me.
These guys are like the Lakers for me last night, where I ran it and I was just like, holy shit, I don't have any of them anywhere. 7% Şengün, 2 Brooks, 3 Van Vliet, 3 Jabari Smith, 13 Jalen Green. I'm just not here. I don't like it. I'm happy to be light on Jabari Smith. Not that I don't like him or not that he can't go out and have a good, 5,900 power forward. He's just like he's probably the most tenuous dude for Houston for me. Whereas they could run that out there. And if they need to do something different and go to Jayshawn Tate or Tari Eason, he can just not, he could just lose a couple minutes to either one of those guys very easily. It's not the same for Van Vliet. It's not the same for Jalen Green to me. And it's clearly not the same for Şengün.
Yeah.
But Jabari Smith is doesn't necessarily have to get anything good today.
The flip side, though, is
he can.
$5,900 Jabari Smith is not priced for 38 minutes of Jabari Smith.
Sure isn't. Not at all. Look, he's a fantasy point per minute guy on the season, 0.99 over the past 30 days. I don't want to undersell him in any way at all. But he is the one guy that has some other players on the Rockets downside, where the other guys don't really have that much.
Right. Barring injury, foul trouble, if somebody just takes minutes from Şengün, that would be shocking. If somebody just takes minutes from Van Vliet, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Van Vliet's probably killing somebody.
Yeah.
Jalen Green probably isn't going anywhere unless you just get that game where Jalen Green is 0 for 10 from 3 in the first quarter or something. And they're just all right, you're done. But realistically, those minutes aren't going anywhere. Brooks, they would like to be out there for defensive reasons, but obviously he's a wing that is interchangeable. Jabari Smith can be, more Jayshawn Tate, more Tari Eason, but it's still not likely. I still think it's more likely that Smith's playing a bunch of minutes here.
Yeah, look, I gave him 32. I don't really think I should be juicing that all that much further. I've taken a look through the prop markets and stuff. I don't feel like I'm off by anything here. It's just,
this is a team I'm light on. 34, but same page.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. You know, like as I look at it, same situation, like I mentioned before for the Lakers. I looked at the Lakers yesterday and I had like 3% of Anthony Davis and not a single share of anybody else. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing or whatever, but that is what's happening here today. Whatever I have is lighter on Houston than everybody. Scary. We'll see how it ends up. You know what I'm not light on? Luka Doncic, 3% owned in our last run. I didn't really need this Jamal Cain value to show up. I have 23% Luka at 11,600. I also have 14% of Grant Williams, 4K power forward, 30 minutes, 17% owned. Don't really have anything else for Dallas, but we don't normally have things for Dallas.
Yeah, the only guy I'm really getting to right now is Grant Williams. The field's getting to him at 17%. We have more than 8% chance of being optimal. I have 17%. So I'm in line with the field there, and it's nothing I'm excited about, happy about, any of that. He's 4K. He's playing minutes at forward on this slate. That's pretty much all I can ask for. If Lively gets ruled out, I think Williams starts to look a little bit better. He'll probably get increased playing time. I don't expect 48 minutes from Holmes and Powell if Lively is out. So it would make Williams look better. It would make Derek Jones Jr. and Josh Green potentially look better. But the way it is right now, I'm getting 17% Williams. I'm getting to 8% of Derek Jones Jr. and Josh Green, basically just because they are extremely cheap and unowned, and maybe I will get lucky. But also, those are the type of guys that probably just disappear now that 3K Jamal Cain is available. I only have 5% Luka. I had a ton of him this morning, but that's because I was getting like a ton of Josh Green, which I don't want, and just other random cheap guys. It's really, really tough to get to Luka, but if you can, by all means. Also, just as an aside, because I know, at least for me and probably for a lot of people that have played for years, you know, Houston is, you see Houston as the matchup and you're just like, oh, this is great. Houston is the slowest team in the league last I looked, and
they're in that ballpark at least. I think it's the Knicks, but you can quibble depending on where you're looking. It's bottom five.
Yeah, right now, just using the pace metric on NBA, it's the Bulls are the slowest, followed by the Knicks, followed by the Rockets. They are one of the best defensive teams and one of the slowest teams.
One thing I want to hit on, Top Shot Pick says Dallas don't have anything to play for. These are still real games, guys. Just because it's an in-season tournament game doesn't mean they're coming out here to lose and run out their second string. They just want to win like they want to win every other game they step on the floor for. No different.
Yeah, the way I'm viewing, the way I'm thinking about this, and it's why most of it isn't really actionable for DFS. None of these teams are like eliminated from the playoffs, playing out the string at the end of the season. You know, it's April NBA, and you're like, oh yeah, Luka's going to play a quarter and not come back. Like, they're playing an actual NBA game. The only thing that I think is even remotely interesting is your teams like Houston, the Knicks, Boston, where like Boston and the Knicks, even if because those games have big spreads, there's not as much blowout, like loss of fourth quarter risk because the points matter. And then Houston basically told us last game, we're treating this like our playoffs. And so that's very interesting.
Yeah. But these teams aren't going out there thinking like, nothing left to play for. Let's just pump the brakes. Luka's getting 22 minutes tonight, sitting in the second half.
Do they really want to win anyway? Like, yeah, I think the Mavs generally want to win games in order to make the postseason.
Yeah, pretty confident they're trying to win everything that they do. But, you know, I could see how you could have a different take. Final game, Golden State Warriors. Hit that like button, by the way. We have 3,200 people here. People are looking for some NBA content with no NFL on. 400 likes. Run that number up over 500, please. Would love to see it. We're on the Warriors, 1.5-point dogs in Sacramento, 236 total. And do you want to just skip to Sacramento? Because I don't see a damn thing on the Golden State Warriors that looks good. Wow, please tell me you're still getting Draymond.
I'm not. I mean, I have 9% Draymond. He's my third highest owned guy on Golden State.
What are you getting? These guys look awful.
I have 14% Clay.
Okay.
I have 11% Steph. That might be the most Steph I've had in the last 5 years.
Okay. That's not as crazy, but like,
I'm fine with these. These are all. I don't think they're great plays. This goes back to like, I clearly think RJ Barrett's a better play than Klay Thompson, but Klay Thompson's getting 7% ownership. I'm getting 14%.
Yeah, I'd rather have 10% Clay and 60% RJ Barrett.
Right. Like, I'm cool looking at lineups and being like, yeah, this lineup's pretty good. And if Klay Thompson beats RJ Barrett, it's really good. Like, that's fine with me. So I'm 2x the field on Clay, which I don't mind. I am 3x the field on Steph at 9,500. Certainly don't mind that. It is.
He's my Donovan Mitchell.
Right. Well, I had 8% Mitchell. You said you had like 25.
Yeah.
Um, and when you think about it, I think this is more of it's easier to explain why I would play Steph on a slate like this than most, because normally you have like pretty good value, and normally you have more like top tier stud options. So the problem Steph runs into is he's obviously a good fantasy player, but in a lot of builds on most slates, you can just say, okay, well, it's not very difficult to turn Steph into Luka or into Jokic or into Embiid or whoever. On this slate, most of those guys aren't playing. Luka's in a shitty spot. Not that he can't just torch anybody, but
Sure.
he's very expensive. There's not a lot of value that helps you make up that $2,200 or whatever it is. 3% owned Steph, where it's just like, yeah, he's $9,500. Let's hope he makes 10 threes. I think is actually pretty defensible on this slate. Draymond, I'm getting 9%, and then I have very small amounts of Gary Payton and Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, like there's a reason these guys are basically unowned across the board. They don't look like great plays.
Best plays. But it goes back
they're not great like median projection plays.
Right.
That has nothing to do with like getting them as pivots in GPPs.
Right. The range of outcomes, the ceiling is still there. And it goes back to the fact that a lot of the most popular plays today are either guys that aren't very good fantasy producers and they're popular just because of lack of alternatives, or it's guys like Darius Garland that are good fantasy producers. They are good plays, but it's not like this is a 7K Darius Garland with no Donovan Mitchell, and you're looking at it like, well, he should be $8,500. Most of the popular plays today are popular because they are slightly better than the alternatives, not because they're 6-7 fantasy points ahead of the guys around them.
We're up over 500 likes. It's kind of sick. It's a huge show, man. 5:30. This is a big one. I like it. Everybody's here for this wacky slate. We go to Sacramento to close this one out. 10% ownership to Malik Monk is the high mark here on DraftKings. It's scattered single digits across the board for the rest of these guys. FanDuel different. 15 to Sabonis at 9,900. He also has power forward center. 36 to Monk at 5,100. 18 to Herter. 16 to 4K Lyles, power forward only. I don't find the Sacramento side of this one on the DK end to be all that appealing either. 6% Monk, 4% Sabonis, 2% Fox. Are you getting it? I don't think it's crazy if you get Fox and Sabonis and stuff, but
not really. I'm getting 10% Monk, so right with the field there, just another $5,600 guard. I have 7% Fox, so I'm like around 2x the field, but nothing crazy. 9,800. Actually, I think I'm interested. Yeah, okay, so I have 6% Trae Young. I have 7% Fox. They are very, very comparable plays to me, and 11% Steph. I think those guys are all basically the same play. They are in that same price range. They're not the best point per dollar projection, but they're all certainly capable of just breaking the slate and being somebody that you have to have and can just single-handedly kind of win you tournaments at 3 to 5% owned. So happy to kind of just be spreading those guys out, be a little bit over the field on all of them. 4% Barnes, 3% Sabonis, a lineup apiece of Duarte and Lyles. So nothing that really stands out here.
Yeah, it's a weird game in that like you would expect this 236 total to be like way more appealing, but all the prices, like for Sacramento, the prices, since DraftKings been quick about pricing, they've already stabilized with Murray being out. On the Golden State side, we've had Draymond out for a bit, but like he's not really that kind of guy when he's coming back anyway. So like all of their prices are pretty stable for where they need to be. It just didn't create a lot of salary value, and that's really what we were looking for on a day like today.
Yeah, a lot of this slate just comes back to pricing being the most important thing in DFS. You can look at a game and say like, oh yeah, it looks good. There's gonna be a lot of scoring. If everybody in that game is $12,000, it doesn't look good.
Your boy is crazy, not understanding anything. Total might be in the 240s. Well, the total's 236, so that's not exactly a bit of a stretch. Well, you can bet you could take an alternate line to 240, and you're not paying that much juice to do it. Keon Ellis available to play. That probably changes everything for Sacramento. I got nothing else here. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Monty McNair is texting this dude's friend like, "Yo, this might go 4 points over the total."
I mean, it's the, like next level stupidity. I can't even imagine typing that and thinking like, gonna get him with this one. Anything else that you want to add before we turn this one over to the Live Before Lock crew? 600 likes, 3,300 people. You guys are most of you are the absolute best.
Yeah, no, that's it for me. I really wish Highsmith was playing because I actually love most of what I was getting to.
I don't want to go see what's going to happen when I start running Miami and get all this Jamal Cain garbage. At least the Bulls didn't pull any shit. I didn't need both of those guys out and us playing like Torrey Craig tonight.
Agreed. Don't forget hockey locks in 30 minutes, not at the same time as NBA for anybody doing that.
What's hockey? Is that a sport?
Yeah, it's another one that I win at, and you probably wouldn't.
Talk to you guys later. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next.
What is happening, everybody? It is Tuesday. It's time for a big live before lock. We've got a ton of people here in the chat. This is, I think, one of our most viewed shows we've had of the year so far, and lots of likes coming in. So, guys, if you haven't done it, it seems like a lot of you are doing. We're up to around 700 likes right now. So, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sponsored by Underdog tonight, and lots of reasons to sign up at Underdog. The main reason of which is that they are doing an offer for new users. You sign up for the first time at Underdog, and you are going to get 0.5 over under total yards for Dak Prescott on Thursday Night Football when you sign up using the link that we have below. You're also going to get up to a $100 deposit bonus there. But Eric, I know that you're not the sharpest person in the world, but you do like as good as you can with the faculties that you've been gifted with. Over under 0.5 passing yards or total yards, could be anything here for Dak Prescott. You have to feel pretty good about that for Thursday Night Football, don't you?
Yeah, I think I'll take more on that. I think more makes sense.
All right, we're on the same page. So right off the bat here, we've got something from Underdog that Eric and I both agree on in the post-lock show. We can talk a little bit more about Underdog and look for some other props we might like over there. And yeah, lots of super chats coming in that we're going to be answering here. Guys, don't forget, if you have questions, you're a Stochastic member, you're in our Discord, at me and I'll answer those questions. But right away, we've got these super chats coming in. And Jordan, the one from Ace of Spade, usually how we start here, is that the first super chat? But are any of these existing ones for us, or were they for the idiots on the show before us?
Idiots on the show before us, more than likely.
All right. So you may not believe this, Eric, but the first question we have of the day, it is an Ace of Spades super chat asking us for our favorite DK tiers option. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my favorite options in DK tiers. Are you ready to talk about some tiers?
I'm all set. Always. Eric's tiers, DK tiers, doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And by the way, last night's slate ended up going pretty interesting. We had DeAndre Jordan scored a gazillion fantasy points. Pretty much all of the Nuggets chalk players ended up working out to some extent. How did that end up for you last night?
Yeah, so the DFS slate went well. Betting went completely horrendously. So that was unfun. I haven't gone over in a long time. I went completely like over. The only thing I hit was the over of 3.5 catches for Jordan Addison. I mean, that doesn't even count because it wasn't NBA and not the thing I was focused on the most. So completely dog shit slate day, everything for me on Monday. But Tuesday, I'm feeling pretty good about this slate.
All right, let's start diving into it, starting with Ace of Spades question about DK tiers. And in tier 1, Eric, we've got some notable studs here, but most importantly, Luka Doncic and Giannis. I don't really think you could consider anybody other than these two guys here. It is Luka for me, but how about yourself?
Yep, gonna be Luka.
All right, Luka in tier 1. That is going to be our answer. Tier 2, we got another one that's pretty tight. We got Domantas Sabonis. We got Trae Young. We've got De'Aaron Fox. I'm going with Sabonis. How about you?
Yep, Sabonis.
All right, we're on the same page so far. Tier 3, we've got Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Edwards, Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving. I mean, now that we don't have Jimmy Butler, my arch rival, playing today, I've got to go with Bam.
Bam, definitely.
All right, Jimmy, softest player in the NBA.
Sure is.
For me, that is going to be Şengün.
Şengün as well.
Oh, boy, we've got too many agreements here.
Yeah.
Too many agreements. Maybe we can find one that we differ on. Tier 5, I'll let you go first. Maybe I could
Fred VanVleet.
All right, cool. So we could be a little bit different here. I'm going with Miles Bridges in tier 5.
Ooh, look at you.
No LaMelo Ball. No LaMelo Ball. Tier 6, that's going to be a Darius Garland for myself.
Let me find out what my tier 6 is. It is Darius Garland as well, yes.
It would be Terry Rozier for me if I didn't go with Miles Bridges in tier 5. So that's something else you could do as well. If you want to go Terry Rozier in tier 6 and maybe tier 5, you go with Eric's Fred VanVleet. I think there's a lot of guys in tier 5 and tier 6 that are very, very close together, but I prefer to not have Rozier and Bridges in the same tiers lineup. So a couple of different ways you guys could go about approaching those. And then we've got Fantasy Guru 76 who wants to know who is the must-play point guard and the value small forward for FanDuel. Must-play point guard. All right, who we consider the must-play at point guard? Must-play. Is there anybody you consider like an absolute must-play at point guard, Eric?
I do not. I mean, I think with what we have from the Miami side, I think somebody that I'm not willing to be without in this spot is probably going to be Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But like, I don't have a Like they're unowned. Like nobody has them. So I mean, they're basically novelty items. They're not popular. I mean, it's going to be pretty easy to get to them. Kyle Lowry, 5,100. I mean, you could maybe call
52.
him close to it.
52.
He's 51 on DK.
FanDuel question, my dude.
Oh, FanDuel. Yeah, there we go. That I'm a dum-dum.
By the way, I'm going to go. There's nobody on in this 8-game slate that says like an absolute must-play point guard. To me, Kyle Lowry is the closest to it. If this is a cash question, go ahead and play Kyle Lowry in cash. I would consider a must-play in cash. Tournaments, I don't think you have to play him, but Kyle Lowry, point guard FanDuel, he's the point guard I get the most exposure to. As far as the value small forward goes, I mean, same situation, different player. Caleb Martin, to me, is the best value that we have at small forward on FanDuel.
Agreed.
Somebody else that you could consider as a really good value option at small forward on FanDuel is Gordon Hayward. And it goes with a lot of the same stuff we just talked about in tiers, which is there's no LaMelo Ball tonight. So with LaMelo Ball out, we could look at guys like Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges playing bigger roles. So Gordon Hayward is another small forward that projects really well over for FanDuel that we should definitely be considering. Now let's go ahead and check the Discord channel to see what it is that we have coming into there. And then we'll talk a little bit about this Miami Heat situation, Jimmy Butler being out and which players it is that we're prioritizing beyond the ones that we just brought up there in regards to some of those questions. But first here in Discord, we got Kenny Wayne 256 says he's got, boy, we're just right off the bat. He's hitting us with it, Eric. He wants to know who the exotic play of the night is on DK. And then thanks. I don't know how it's not Gordon Hayward.
Awful bit, not an enjoyable bit. But I think Gordon Hayward, I'm trying to talk myself into playing a little bit more for DFS. He had a 12.5, and I think it's still sitting at 12.5 right now. Points prop, that is too low, I think, in this spot. There's no way the Gordon Hayward's going to end up being an exotic play for me in any way, shape, or form. I don't think.
What about Şengün?
I like Şengün a lot. I think Şengün on pretty much any slate. I mean, the guy's playing a ridiculous amount of minutes now. Nearly a 47-point projection here for DK purposes. I love what we're seeing out of Alperen Şengün. And I think, back in the slate starter days, I mean, shout out Rinpack. He was so freaking early to how good Alperen Şengün was going to be fantasy-wise. It's ridiculous. So shout out my guy, Ryan Putnaik. My dude Rinpack, because Alperen Şengün, he is absolutely that dude on the offensive end of the floor.
I'm trying to think who else is like, up there as well. Those are two that definitely stand out. Yeah, I think that's about as exotic as it gets today, is it?
Oh my dear God, stop it. Jakob Poeltl could be exotic. I'm overweight to him.
What makes you say Jakob Poeltl?
I hate this bit so much. It's not funny.
I think you're on an island with that. First of all, whenever we bring it up, Jordan starts laughing. I see the LOLs in the YouTube chat. I think people enjoy this. And the more you dislike it, the more everybody else likes it.
That's really nice to know that I have that effect and that I come to my place of employment in order to be belittled and made fun of for something that was regarding ownership and got taken completely out of context by one person in the YouTube chat. Is now exploded into this thing that makes me cringe.
I don't really know what it is you're talking about.
God, you're the worst.
We're just trying to find the players who are a little bit off the beaten path that you might like on some slates here and there.
I really hate this bit.
And let's go ahead and see what else we have coming into the very good question, Kenny Wayne. I appreciate it. Keep them coming. These are the kind of thoughtful, inquisitive questions that we really need to push along live before lock here. And here we've got a question from our guy, Captain Akella. And in advance, he's already thanking us for the nuke of the night. And I want to get back on track. Nuke of the night is at the halfway point of live before lock. So 13 minutes from now, we'll have
it's the Chris Baggs money hat. That is what our nuke of the night is.
But this is better. It's got an animation.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have nearly as cool of hair though.
Yeah, it's not a shitty hat we bought on Amazon for $13. This is like a really cool animation that Brody cooked up for us.
$13 is a lot of credit for that hat.
Yeah, it's a nice hat. Capanicella wants to know who we're playing in a single entry. And then thanks in advance for the nuke of the night there. So yeah, nuke of the night coming at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 13 minutes from now. But first, who's something you'd want to be getting to in a single entry, Eric, that maybe is a little bit different looking in single entry compared to like a large field tournament?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm playing some like smaller field tournament. I decided to play 40 lineups and that $8 on DK, just to kind of mix it up, sub 5K entries and 10K up top. Just kind of want to try some different stuff here with the Sims tool. But single entry, kind of was debating doing it. I'm not going to be playing it today, but if I were, I would be looking at, again, Jakob Poeltl's a piece that I think I am going to be overweight to, if you want to call him my exotic play of the night or what have you, sounds great. But one thing that was happening before you had the injury to Precious Achiuwa is you had Mr. Jakob Poeltl just kind of minimized in terms of minutes. You had saw 24 and 23 minutes. He ends up getting dinged up in that Philly game, doesn't play for 2 weeks. And Jakob Poeltl comes out and just puts his foot down on the gas and has been playing big minutes. 35 minutes against Cleveland, 31 against Chicago here in the last two. He's looked really good. He's great on the defensive end of the floor, and he's just an efficient scorer. Doesn't need a lot of volume in order to get you there. 6K, looking at the center position today, it's just one of those spots where Alperen Şengün is going to get a ton of looks like he should. And Rudy Gobert at 6,600 is going to get a ton of looks like he should. But there's really nobody else that I'm really that worried about. And it comes down to like Jakob Poeltl's 6K against a Brooklyn front court that is just not very good there. I'm feeling pretty good about Jakob Poeltl as a contrarian piece.
All right. And some news that just came in, then I'll give out mine in a second here. We do have Derek Lively is available to play. He was listed as questionable, and we didn't really have a lot of guys on the injury report coming into the show. The big thing is just talking about this Miami Heat situation and Jimmy Butler, who is maybe the softest player in the history of the league. He's not going to be playing today. That's where most of the value comes from. With Derek Lively, who was questionable, now playing, and we don't really have too much other as far as injury situations to go to. So Lively is going to play. And we have the Celtics starting lineup, which is Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, and Horford. For myself, which way do I want to go with this?
Yeah, I said, I have like a number of guys that I'm getting to in the portfolio above, but like thinking about it from a single entry, I think this is kind of a difficult slate. And I think one of the reasons I didn't end up firing up single entry is I kind of want to mix and match a lot of these Miami pieces. I mean, it's more of like in single entry, which Miami pieces do you want to omit, considering 5 guys are in the top 7 of ownership now?
So I think there are I want to say if I got a Miami player, I'm going to say for nuke of the night. But for single entry, I'll tell you a guy who is showing up in my top projected lineup right now, which if this ends up being my final version of everything, he's going to be my single entry lineup. This guy's been all over the place, and it is Cam Johnson. This is kind of the ideal type scenario you look for when you're talking about somebody with GPP upside, whereas Cam Johnson has had no mediocre games this season. He either has great games or terrible games. So cash games, you're not considering a Cameron Johnson, but you look at just like his last 4 games, for instance, just from like box scores, and not saying this is like solely what we're making the decision on here, but Cam Johnson, I think, kind of paints a picture. 25 fantasy points, 45, 42, 19 over the course of the last 4 games. He's somebody who's been very streaky as a shooter, a lot of variance to his game. And you consider that the prices are kind of built on what players, like average performances are. So Cam Johnson at single digit ownership is somebody I do like getting overweight to the field to, and is currently in my single entry lineup. Is it going to go well? Maybe. Is it going to go poorly? Also, potentially maybe, but I like that ceiling.
I'm cheering for him because, unlike you, I appreciate and I cheer for my coworkers.
There we go. Cam Johnson, who Eric is going to be cheering for today. I hope that you come in second place tonight, right behind me, Eric. That's cheering for you.
Thanks.
You'd be happy if you came in second place, and like
I would be ecstatic to come in second place, but also you took that as a you took that as another opportunity to yet again be authoritative over me. I want to flag this comment, this timestamp for my lawyers when I inevitably sue you.
All right. Have you been following the Ian Machado Gary potential lawsuit on Twitter? It's
dude,
fun.
It is outrageous. But Sean Strickland just. This guy's had an entertaining week on Twitter, let me tell you, between the house break-in and then his rant about it was pretty incredible.
Let's see what we've got Also going in here as far as question, I would tell people to go look it up on Twitter, but you can't because Ian Machado Gary has made his account private now, so you can't find the information anymore.
Unreal.
But here we go.
Unreal.
Next question that we have here, it is from Wally Balls, aka Billy Walsh. It was Billy Balls though in Entourage, which I believe it's who he is referencing here with his name. But on DK single entry, where do you see yourself spending up? Şengün. I guess like if we're considering Şengün to spend up, him, there's nobody who's super expensive that I find to be like super desirable to just like force myself to get to tonight.
Good point.
How about you? If you're spending up for one guy tonight, Şengün or somewhere else?
God, I would be looking again. This is just going to be a stand that I have. I have a lot of SGA going up against Minnesota. I understand Minnesota's defense has been awesome this season. This is just SGA in a premier type game here tonight. 10-5. There's just not a lot of these guys up at the top outside of Sabonis, who's garnering a little bit of attention, but depending on where you look, nobody above 9K is pulling any type of ownership. And it's a little bit confusing to me. You know what? Actually, where I'm going to go. Yeah, no, I'll stick with that. I'll stick with SGA.
All right. SGA, that is going to be Eric's answer. Spend up for me is going to be Şengün. Popular, but I just don't really love that many spend up options today. Like there are certain guys I could look to and I could say that I'm slightly overweight to the field on them. Like Luka's only projected for 4% ownership. I've got 6% of Luka, but that doesn't mean I'm dying to go roster him tonight. And same thing with SGA, by the way. He's projected for 5% ownership. I have 6, but there's not one guy who's like 20, 25% of my lineups who's like at a 10K plus price point.
Yep. It's just a tough one. It's a tough spot for it.
So let's talk about the Miami Heat now, Eric, because this is where almost all the value is coming for tonight. Jimmy Butler, it can play, something his childbearing hips were bothering him. He's unable to make it onto the court. So with Jimmy Butler out tonight, we've now got really the only value situation of the entire slate. Which players from Miami are you prioritizing the most?
Yeah, it's going to start with Caleb Martin. He's the most popular, 4,500, but he's got shooting guard, small forward utility. He's sub 5K, and he just makes things work in lineups. Kyle Lowry makes sense, but I'm with you where I don't think he's like some I need to hook slam him type guy. He's coming in a little bit underneath this 39% number for me. I'm happy to have a third of my lineups basically have Kyle Lowry and not try to force him into anything else. I think where I get a little bit uncomfortable is when you start talking about Jaime Jaquez, who's played very, very well, inserted into the starting lineup against Brooklyn. But, I mean, it just doesn't feel as though we're going to continue to see, is he going to be filling up box scores 18-5-4 alongside a Bam here? Milwaukee, not the easiest spot in the entire land, although it is a pace up spot here. He's got small forward, power forward utility, but I'm finding myself getting to more Josh Richardson than Jaime Jaquez at half the ownership currently. 38%, 22% for Josh Richardson there. I've basically got them flip-flopped, so I'm not sure what to make of it. I like Jaime Jaquez as a basketball player. I liked him at UCLA. I like him here, but he was a sneaky pickup and fits kind of the MO of what Miami's going to do, be gritty, and he could fill up a box score, it would appear, but the guy averages 11.2, 3.8, and 2.4 assists per game. And now all of a sudden we're seeing massive spikes here in the last couple. I'm not sure what to make of it. Maybe they're asking to take on more, and we're going to see that fantasy point per minute rate go up from 0.85 to 0.9, 0.95 long-term, but I don't think so. So Caleb Martin, definite priority, no doubt about it. And then everybody else just filtering into lineups and rotating them around a little bit more Josh Richardson, a little less Jaime Jaquez.
Yeah, so for me, and one other thing I want to add also, I am not getting to any lineups with more than 4 players from Miami. I've got some lineups with 4, but nothing beyond that. One thing about the Miami Heat, which is a little bit different from when we were talking about the Denver Nuggets yesterday, where you and I were willing to get to more than 4, even if our ideal number we gave out was 3, if I remember correctly yesterday.
And you wanted 3 of them, let me tell you. It was very obvious the 2 you wanted, but you could have gotten Justin Holiday in there and been just fine with your life.
So for me, my ideal number of players from the Miami Heat is also going to be 3. I've allowed up to 4, not quite as many lineups with 4. And one thing that's different about the Miami Heat situation tonight, as opposed to what we saw last night with the Denver Nuggets, is the value isn't quite as extreme on Miami, where we had last night with Denver is DeAndre Jordan, close to min price. Holiday, close to min price. So you have these guys who are considerably cheaper. And it's a scenario like, well, Holiday could have 20 fantasy points. Jordan could have 20 fantasy points. And relative to their salaries, like those would have been good outcomes. It's a little bit different today when while these value guys still really good, Martin's $4,500, Lowry's $5,100. But also, we've got more games tonight. You appear to be aggrieved about something.
I do. I just saw that Jaime Jaquez is not going to be starting here tonight. So there's that. That just came through. We get Richardson in the starting lineup. So that'll be Lowry, Richardson. I know Richardson's been starting here and Robinson back. It makes sense that Jaquez goes to the bench, but I'm kind of bummed out about it that it came out now. Was hoping it would come out a little bit closer to lock so that people would be playing Jaime Jaquez in bulk. Again, I didn't quite understand where that ownership was at.
Yeah, we've got the starting lineup here of, like you said, Lowry, Richardson, Robinson, Love, Adebayo. And I'll just put a bow on what I was saying before. We have more games on the slate today, so that doesn't make us, as having to be concentrated on one team the same way we were on Denver last night. And then in addition to that, the price tag is just a little bit more expensive. But how many players are you willing to get to from the Miami Heat in any one lineup?
I could get to 4 today, but I guess the question that I'm having a tough time is what I want to do now with, like, does Jamal Cain at 3K actually become a thing? Played 29 minutes last game against Brooklyn. I know that it got wonky and that he basically came from obscurity, hadn't played in 2 weeks, but like 29 minutes, he went from not a part of the rotation to a part of the rotation. He's been a terrible fantasy point per minute guy here this season. Very limited sample size. Again, he's played 25 minutes against Minnesota, 29, and then he's played all of 5 minutes altogether during the regular season, aside from those 2 games where he played bulk minutes. But I feel as though I should have some exposure there. I'm just curious to get your take, because he's flat 3K. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about him.
All right. So a couple things. I wanted to check what our minutes were. We had Jaquez projected for 34 minutes. So I assume we were expecting him to start, but if I'm not sure if it's Rich or Lee who are on the projections. If you guys are watching, just DM me and then let me know if we were projecting Jaquez to come off the bench or start. So then when we get a projections update, if there is going to be one for the Heat starting lineup, because obviously if we were expecting Jaquez to come off the bench before, there's nothing to really change. But if that does alter our projections, let me know, because then I'll refresh it and pull this back up in a couple of minutes when it is all set and ready to go. But who was it that you were asking me about again?
Yeah, Jamal Cain. Mainly, I'm just working through the minutes myself. That's kind of what I've been doing for the last half hour that we've been talking, is like, what do I want to do with Jamal Cain and Kevin Love? Because if you tick up their minutes ever so slightly in either direction, like, you're either going to get a lot of them or you're going to get none of them because of their price tags where they're at. Kevin Love's 4K. We know what a good fantasy point per minute producer he is if he's on a floor. And then Jamal Cain, again, I just hate that he played 29 minutes against Brooklyn there, working through that. I mean, 29 minutes is obviously not just blowout run. That was like an intentional part of the rotation. And now the obvious thing that changes between last time and this one is that, well, you have Jimmy Butler, who's going to continue to be out, but like Duncan Robinson comes back. Does he play 33 minutes like we have projected for? Because if you have to tick him down, Jamal Cain is, again, 3K. And there are minutes to be had here on this team with no Haywood Highsmith. Like, that's just something that, for me, I'm finding a tough time figuring out what I want to do. Because, again, 3K does tons for you.
I have him in, so he's not now like an outright fade or anything, but he made it into 2 of my top 150 lineups.
Okay. I'm because if I put him in for 24 minutes, it's insane. That's like too many, but 22, 23, I don't know. This is a really tough thing for me to get a gauge on what I want to do. And again, it's going to dictate what I do with a lot of those lineups, because then I get access to builds nobody else has, having a flat 3K guy where there's like no value down there today.
And by the way, we just got everything updated. So Jordan, if you wouldn't mind pulling up on screen our new projections for the Miami Heat, because we were previously expecting Jaquez to start, Triple J, the Miami version. So now we've got some altered projections here, which I definitely think impacts what we want to do, at least to some extent, with the Miami Heat. I actually might now only make it so that I could play a max of 3 Miami Heat players in one lineup. I don't know that I'm going to want to have lineups that have like 4 Miami Heat players now with just kind of the change of how we have it here. Because even with Jaquez coming off the bench, we've got him projected for 30 minutes. It's different than 34. It makes him look not quite as appealing. But the other thing, too, is it just generally kind of alters my perception of this Miami Heat team, where there's a lot of players I want to get to individually. I just don't know that I want to have like 4 Miami Heat players in the same lineup. But what we have right now is only Bam Adebayo, the only player on the team we've projected to score north of 30 fantasy points, with him at 47 for DK. We've got Duncan Robinson for 29 as the second best, but he's $6,200. We've got Lowry for 29 fantasy points. Jaquez now at 26, so that's going to make him less appealing looking. Richardson at 25. We've got Caleb Martin at 25, Kevin Love at 24. So you got these guys in Richardson, Martin, and Love who are projected pretty similarly, similar price points as well. But Caleb Martin becomes the most favorable of those guys still for me, just because the positionality, like shooting guard, small forward, is very favorable.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And then if we go ahead and we look over at FanDuel, and I'll have to update all my lineups after this, we've got Bam Adebayo for 47 over on FanDuel, and then 27 and 27 for Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry. So Robinson a little bit better looking on FanDuel than DK, but still at $5,600, not like a real priority for me. Then we've got Caleb Martin, small forward, power forward, which is very favorable for FanDuel at $5,200. And then Jaquez there, followed by Richardson and Kevin Love, each around 24 and 22 fantasy points. Do you think you're going to get to like any of Jaquez now, or is it just going to be some? What do you think is going to ultimately end up happening with Jaquez in your lineups?
I have no idea until I click this button. I mean, this is going to be very spotty, because again, there's a way where this just sucks that this lineup came out so early. I was planning on going undercutting the field and being pretty happy with limited Jaime Jaquez, but now people are going to hit eject, and maybe you have to cut him back on the other side of things. We'll see as I finish out the Sims, but 29 minutes is what I ended up putting him in for. That was down from 32 and a half. Again, I don't even necessarily think he was a good play before, and now it's definitely not going to be there, but we'll see where the ownership lands at when we get closer to lock here. And I think that'll kind of dictate what I do.
Is this going to change your nuke of the night at all? Because we're coming up, we were going to do nuke of the night a couple minutes ago, but then the Heat starting lineup came out. So it kind of changed, because like my nuke of the night was going to be Josh Richardson as a pivot off of Jaquez. Yeah. But now waiting for this fresh ownership update, I assume the Jaquez is going to come way down in ownership, and we're going to see Richardson go up in ownership. So I don't know that is going to be my nuke of the night anymore. Yeah. But who are you settling on? Nuke of the night call, Eric. Oh, also, wait, before we do, Jordan, play the animation. Can't believe I almost fucked that up. Let's do it. Nuke of the night. It always reminds me of the animation from if you ever played Call of Duty, when you get the nuke.
That's what it is. I think that's literally what the animation is. Yeah. Is it really? Paste it on front of the guy that normally he's like, rodeo on top of the it's not. What's it from?
It's just a nuke. It's not from it's from Brody's imagination.
Oh
yeah, and you weren't in the game either.
Imagination.
Yeah, that was not you in the game.
That was South Park, by the way, but nobody cares about that either. We are the sea otters.
Yeah. Is that when they're how the Family Guy episodes are created?
No, it's when he's waiting for the release of the new Nintendo or PlayStation or whatever. He's like waiting for the video game system. He's like, come on. He's going back and forth, and then he goes in time like 2,000 years, and it's like the otters have taken over the world. It's the whole thing.
Those otters are vicious. I've been watching a lot of animal videos on YouTube lately when they like fight each other and stuff. Dude, otters are not to be trifled with. They are badasses. They're like otters in the sea. They're like the Dagestanis of the UFC. Like you see an otter in the water, it's the same thing as if you see one of those dudes with a beard and no mustache, they're about to fuck you up. Nuke of the night, Eric. What do you have for us here?
All right. My nuke of the night is going to be Julius Randle. Going up against Charlotte here. This game locks. We've got 5 games locking here in a quick second here. Power forward center, 8,700 here. Mitchell Robinson pulling a lot of ownership. RJ Barrett pulling a lot of ownership. Emmanuel Quickly even pulling some ownership here. But I see Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson as two guys that I want to be overweight to here going up against Charlotte. This is just such a good spot. 116 team total, pace up spot anytime you're playing Charlotte. And now, yeah, it's an 11-point spread, and there are just some wonky spreads that exist on this slate. The Boston-Chicago game, you got some competitive ones as well, but like, people shy away from these kind of spots now because we've had so many blowouts. And Julius Randle at 8,700, that is still a buy for me going up against a Charlotte front court here. I know everybody who looks at his last two games will see that they got completely 36 minutes, 35 minutes. He didn't do anything, but I love when you see those box scores where, he hasn't shown it here lately. He's still a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy that I still am going to be projecting a little bit north of that, around 1.25 here in this spot against Charlotte. And if they do put the hammer down, it's probably a lot of Julius Randle doing it. So I'm pretty happy to see right around, he's at 10.7% ownership now. I'm double the field on that. And that was kind of what I anticipated being maybe like 3x the field on until I just saw that ownership.
Yeah, so I am going to have to rerun my lineups for we just got by the way, ownership update came in a minute ago for the Miami Heat. So the notable changes here, and we'll look at both DraftKings and FanDuel, if you wouldn't mind putting this up on the screen, Jordan. And then we could also run some lineups for the lineup generator. Don't forget, we have our Cyber Monday deal. Today's the last day to take advantage of it. Less than $5 when you sign up for the lineup generator. Use the promo code Cyber in the link we have below. So we'll build some lineups in the lineup generator here shortly, but I also want to go over the updated ownership as well as all the super chats that we have that have come in. But we now have Kevin Love projected for 57% ownership, Caleb Martin at 40% over on DraftKings. Hawkes has come down to 19.4. Josh Richardson's gone up to 32.7. Over on FanDuel, we now have Hawkes down to, where is Hawkes? Jaime Hawkes. Am I spelling? Oh, he's all the way down to 6% ownership on FanDuel now, Eric. 6% ownership for Hawkes. The most roster players on the Heat, we've got Kevin Love at 36%, Lowry at 34%, Richardson at 26%. Now that Hawkes has come down to 6% ownership on FanDuel and 19% on DraftKings, does that change your outlook on him?
Yeah, I mean, it has to. People don't want to ever hear this because people want to attach you to a take and a player and say you were either for this player or you were against this player. And they never take into account positionality. They never take into account salary. They never, what else are you giving up in your lineup to be able to roster this person? Like, there are so many variables, but the main thing was that I thought he was a terrible piece of chalk as it was. And I was going to have a little bit in the event that, he starts and everything else and looked like he was going to be somebody that was just over-owned relative to what I was anticipating out of him. And now he's completely under-owned for what is relatively expected of him. His situation hasn't changed so drastically. There's a lot of ways Duncan Robinson doesn't work out and end up being somebody who plays 33 minutes in this spot. I think it's probably likely that if this game is competitive, that there's a chance that Duncan Robinson plays around that. But now you got to start talking about Jaime Hawkes in a different light than before.
Yeah, particularly on FanDuel, right? Like DraftKings, the field is still getting to him at least to a point where it's like, all right, he's somebody that you want to be getting to, but it's not like anything, crazy over on DraftKings. FanDuel at 6% ownership, that's a real contrarian play that I have a lot of interest in on FanDuel. 6% is very low for him when he was expecting to be chalk before. That's
an overcorrection by the marketplace. Also, what does this closing lineup look like if they're down 15? Doesn't Hawkes still stay out on the floor? Like if we're looking at like what's the opposite of a closing lineup, the blowout run out, like what is that lineup? Because I'm thinking that's something against Milwaukee. I am a little bit surprised that this is a just 4-point spread as we're looking at it right now.
Is that what it is? I have
5, 4.5, and 5 is it only moved about a half point after Haywood Highsmith, and then Jimmy Butler was the one that moved it from 3 to the 4 to begin with.
That does seem low. Miami is home, though.
I know, but that is insane to me still, considering you have, a Milwaukee team that has the ammunition that it does on that side of the ball. And then you look at Miami, it's like, if you don't get production out of Kyle Lowry and Josh Richardson and Caleb Martin, you are toast. Like, you are toast. And you're comparing that to Milwaukee, where you got to knock down 3-point shooter in Lopez, Giannis, and Lillard, obviously. And then Chris Middleton going to be playing for this one. Like, it just seems very, very strange to me.
All right, let's bang out these questions and we'll build
Love
lineups
banging.
in the lineup generator. Hey, this is a family show, Eric.
Oh, sorry.
So, you know how we do around here. This guy always getting himself in trouble.
So,
right,
just saying, I'm having a little fun.
Got some questions here to answer. First is from Jorge. Jorge is asking us top 3 value plays for DK, and also who is our favorite center between Bam and Şengün. I prefer Şengün to Bam.
I prefer Şengün to Bam as well, which is, again, just so wild to say that out loud.
And then the other part of the question he was asking us is who are favorite value plays on DK? Caleb Martin is one. Kyle Lowry is another one for me. Who else are you going to put into that mix, Eric? Favorite value plays on DK?
Not favorite, but somebody I'm going to play is Kevin Love.
Sure. I think I'm going to. I'll see once I update everything. He's so popular. I might end up being underweight to the field, but I mean, like 57.5%. The field's getting to him in a very, very significant way.
Yeah. I mean, you've just worked through the minutes in this rotation and they have to go somewhere. And Kevin Love, I think what makes me worried about it is that there's a very good chance that you have a Miami team get smacked around here. I might have to revisit this. This is a really weird spread to me. I might have to be adding that one, but Kevin Love, 4K, if he gets 20 minutes, 22 minutes, that there's a chance for him to go completely berserk because he's just always been that fantasy point per minute guy. And he always feels like on these shorthanded Miami slates, you just kind of look at Kevin Love as a de facto piece where, yeah, I'm going to get to a number of shares of him, but I don't know if I want to be getting to 57.5% of him. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I'll know once my lineups are done being run for the latest ownership updates we have on the Heat. So I could end up being wrong. I just, because I'm doing what the data tells me after I run everything through. If the data says that Love, I should have in more than 57.5% of lineups, so be it. My intuition is I'll have less, but I could be wrong when everything comes out through the other end. Next question that we have here is from Ben P. He wants to know, how can you sue your boss for expressing his authority? Exactly. Sometimes you got to spank somebody to keep him in line, and Eric thinks there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, get fucked, Greg. How about that?
That's sexual harassment, Eric. We don't approve of that around.
Just, just throwing it back.
Next question is from Malcolm Revamp, who wants to know, Eric, do you have a parlay pick tonight for FanDuel? Do you have a parlay that you like?
Oh, for FanDuel? FanDuel? We can do FanDuel. I don't know about a specific single game parlay of any types, because again, it's going to be mainly straight bets for me, but there are a couple of FanDuel pieces that ended up on the old card. If you go to the expert picks section now of Odd Shopper as well, we're able to tag our bets directly in there. I love that Gordon Hayward over 12.5 points. I think that's one that you can combine with a number of different spots, but the best line available right now, FanDuel, Golden State Warriors on the money line. It was better yesterday at plus 118. You can still jump in there at plus 110. Good times. Those are all FanDuel plays.
Next question is from News God. His super chat is shout out to News God, and Eric is pretty cool too. So we got News God is shouting on. I think he meant to do this from his burner. You don't want to do this from your main account, News God. You got to do a burner account and shout yourself out. RADM thoughts on Kyle Lowry. One of the best plays on the slate. I'm going to be
one of the best plays on the damn slate.
Yeah, get to Kyle Lowry. You want to play old man Kyle Lowry. Corey Shea, are we playing anybody under 4K? Eric, is there anybody under 4K you really like today? I have an uncomfortable answer.
On FanDuel?
No. This is a DraftKings
okay,
question.
Thank God.
You guys playing anybody under
Jamal
4K?
Cain. I mean, this is dumb. I'm not sure what I'm looking at here, but I am going to play Jamal Cain at 10%. So that's fun.
I have some exposure to Andre Drummond at $3,300 on DraftKings.
I get that one.
It's just the guy who's cheap. That's a really good points from fantasy producer. The cheap value is shit today. It's terrible. But Andre Drummond is a guy who in 14 minutes has a ceiling because he's a very good points from a fantasy producer and somebody who puts up a lot of fantasy points in a hurry. So it's not one I like, but it's one that for $3,300, I do have some interest in him.
It's one you can tolerate. And also, he's the highest owned player from the Bulls, which is just insane when you think about it. But like, if that game blows out, which there's a very good chance that it does, Andre Drummond's closing. And that seems like fun to get 10 minutes of fourth quarter run or 8 minutes of fourth quarter run from just Andre Drummond out there.
Next super chat we have here is from James Magruder. Best plays at each position and cheap values. All right. So cheap values, I mean, it depends like how cheap you're actually looking for us to go here, because there aren't like flat min, like there's no DeAndre Jordan tonight. There's no flat min guy. It's like, oh, we have to get to him. But as far as the cheap guys that I do like getting to, a lot of it's just going to correlate with the players that we're about to talk about liking the most at each position, which, you know, at point guard, Kyle Lowry for me. How about yourself, Eric? Favorite point guard option?
Fred VanVleet.
Okay. Shooting guard, favorite shooting guard option for yourself, Eric? Who's that?
Caleb Martin is going to be both shooting guard, small forward.
Caleb Martin for me, shooting guard, small forward. If I'm going to go somebody who is not either of them, I'm actually getting overweight to Nickeil Alexander-Walker at $4,600, who is shooting guard and small forward eligibility. So that's somebody I like there. At power forward, it's still kind of by default has to be Kevin Love.
Yep, has to.
And then at center, I will go. I'm actually getting like overweight to the field to Rudy Gobert, who's projected for ownership in the teens. But Şengün's another one that I think is a very strong center option.
Yep, they're both. I'm going to have a ton of both of those cats. The Sims tool out of control with it right now too, but justifiably so.
Then we've got a super chat here from Michael Applegate. Eric, any good prize picks? People just putting you on the spot.
Yeah, so it was at 12.5 forever. I still wouldn't mind 13 on Gordon Hayward because that just moved. Let me fire up what I was looking at earlier. So one play that got bet down, and it's not that I'm surprised it is, but it's one that graded out really nice for me last night. DeJounte Murray was sitting at 18.5 points. And I know that seems like a low number, but DeJounte Murray, that got bet down to 17.5 at books, and it remains at 18.5 over on Prize Picks. I think that's a decent enough spot, but I think Prize Picks was pretty tough today. You had to kind of dip into the hockey streets, and we have the fantasy optimizer for Prize Picks for Dodge Shopper. What's up?
Hockey. No, I just wasn't expecting you to say
just
hockey.
Saying that the expected win percentage, because it's really just kind of one of the most valuable things you can do, whether it's at Underdog, which is the sponsor of our lovely program, and you can sign up for, or Prize Picks, no matter what it is you're looking for lines that sit north of like minus 130. And every single site has a different payout structure. On Prize Picks, you're primarily looking at building 5 and 6 flex payouts. On Underdog, the best payout structure is actually just to play 3, because on Prize Picks, you have 5x. That becomes 6x over at Underdog. So it kind of brings down what your baseline level is. You basically have to beat out minus 128 as opposed to minus 130 when you're comparing it to like sportsbook odds. So it's a little bit of a boost there to be able to play those over at Underdog. And so I ended up actually playing over there a little bit more than I did Prize Picks today. Ended up using that hockey Prize Picks. Who's the goalie? I don't even know who he was. He played for Toronto. I think that game locked 20 minutes ago or something, but I've got a goaltender that was the Prize Picks deal. He got 24.5 saves, down from 28.5 for his projections. So yeah, it wasn't a great NBA day for Prize Picks.
I really need to get more hockey information out of Eric going forward.
No, you don't.
Not for now, but yeah, going forward, we're going to get some more hockey analysis.
It was something Bouchard under 0.5 assists, had a 57% expected win percentage in our fantasy optimizer of an odd shopper. And then if you looked at the odds for it, the under of 0.5 assists was like minus 140. So it makes sense that was a good play to throw in. But like, I wanted to get to a 5 or a 6 flex card, and I only had like 3 or 4 Prize Picks plays that I really liked today. What was the other one that was pretty good? Kyrie Irving under 4.5 rebounds was something that looked nifty too. But again, I don't always post out my cards when I know that I'm going to be on a lot of unders, because people don't want to sweat unders, even though I heard they pay out the same.
The rumors are true. I've heard that. It's actually in the Constitution, if I'm not mistaken, that thou shalt not make unders pay out more than overs. And there's actually, these days, there's more juice on overs than on unders. So they actually, unders do pay out slightly better in the long run. But Jake Lindland wants to know, rank our Heat values on FanDuel. Lowry and Caleb Martin are my 2 favorites. If you want to get contrarian with the Heat, I think Hawkes at 6% is a good way to differentiate. Yeah. Super chat from David Smith. This is a 2v2. So Jordan, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the player comparison tool, and then once we get through these, there's one more question after this. We'll build lineups in the lineup generator and see what's popping up there. And David Smith is asking us, Garland and Randall, or Mitchell and Cam Johnson in a FanDuel GPP. And then we've also got another 2v2 in there. So we've got Ben Anthony is asking Grant Williams and NAW, solid pivots off Miami. I do like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'm overweight to the field on him. So that is one that I do like. And then we've got Angelo Frias is asking us to evaluate this lineup. Curry, Lowry, Monk, Quickly, Barrett, Brooks, Dre, Sabonis, Şengün, FanDuel. You should have a little bit more exposure to the Miami Heat, in my opinion.
Yes.
The only Heat player you have in there is Kyle Lowry, but you have Quickly and Barrett in your lineup. You got Draymond Green in there, Dylan Brooks. Yeah, I would say a little more exposure to the Heat, in my opinion. Probably like at least 2 Heat players in there. So I'd add like Caleb. You have Lowry. I'd say, yeah, like add like Caleb Martin to that lineup and take somebody else out. 2v2, it is Garland and Randall. And this is a FanDuel question, by the way. If you have FanDuel selected, it looks like you do. Garland and Randall, and then Mitchell and Cam Johnson. Donovan Mitchell and Cam Johnson.
Beautiful. Zach LaVine, somebody you're getting to at all?
I don't know because I haven't finished my lineups yet.
Okay, but I would do that because we have lock in 7 minutes.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I'm fine too.
Good.
All right. I'm done with mine. I'm uploading. I'm moving on with my life. We'll figure out exactly what I'm looking at. A lot of Miles Bridges.
Ooh, interesting. A lot of Miles Bridges.
Yeah. What happened to his ownership? What is he sitting at?
I just pressed run contest simulation, so I'll know in a second. Well, pretty clear answer here. Randall and Darius Garland winning 65.2% of the time. So David Smith, you want to be going to the Garland and Randall side pretty clearly over on FanDuel. And then another one here, Jordan, so leave this up. Daniel Buffington is asking us for DK now. So this is a DK one. Jared Allen and RJ Barrett. And then Rudy Gobert and Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Find that super chat. Where is it at here?
And some other questions here. Jets World asked any Keen love for Miami. He's in a couple of my lineups, but like I wouldn't say I love him. And then also no thoughts on Kevin Love. So Kevin Love. All right, I've got my lineups favorited here. All right, I'm playing a lot of Kevin Love. I thought I was going to be underweight to the field to him, but ended up not being the case. So Kevin Love, somebody who I am getting to a good amount of, and the ownership ended up not being problematic for me. As part of the super chat from Daniel Buffington, Gobert and Bogdanovic, that is the side we're preferring over Allen and RJ Barrett. And then the next super chat that we have here is from Olrat14. He wants to know Kevin Love or Grant Williams. That is Kevin Love for me. How about yourself, Eric?
Kevin Love for sure. And then somebody else just to answer it. Love or G Williams? Yeah, will Love play 20 minutes? Like, I hope so, because I have a lot of him.
And now we've got also Cully Poston asking us, Rozier, Dinwiddie, or Garland? Rozier, Dinwiddie, or Garland?
Do we have a site?
I'm going to assume DraftKings.
Okay. Rozier, Dinwiddie, Garland. Garland's going to be the guy I have the most of.
Garland. You know, it's fun. So I'm looking at my final lineups here. I'm going to say it depends how chalky your lineup is. I have 23.3% of Garland in my final run and 21.3% of Spencer Dinwiddie, but Garland is like double the ownership. So if everything is equal, I'm going to tell you Garland, but if your lineup is very popular, you want to be a little bit more contrarian, Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be my answer there.
Love it.
All right. We are caught up on the super chats now. So let's get into Discord here and just bang out as many of these as quickly as
Love banging.
IC50, I know you do, and stop texting me about what I want to do late at night. IC50, I know this isn't a betting show, but Milwaukee favored by just 4 seems small. Hey, Eric was bringing it up before. It does.
Seems a little fishy. Think the fix is in, don't you, Greg?
I think that sportsbooks are rightfully realizing that Jimmy Butler doesn't have very much value.
I think that is exactly it.
It's actually not what it is that's going on.
I know, but
it's more so the Bucks
it.
being a little bit overrated by the public right now.
That is correct. Spanish Armada, 1542.
Mr. Sludge to you, Jabari Smith or Cam Johnson at forward. That is Cam Johnson for me.
Yeah, I kind of like this Cam Johnson thing that you were going on. You went on a little bit of a tangent for that. Toronto's a really good defense on that side, but Cam Johnson's the kind of guy who you just need him to get hot from three. Like you're playing Cam Johnson on DraftKings to get hot from three at 6,100. Can he knock down 5 or 6 of them? Yes, he sure freaking can. So one-time dealer, one time.
Next question here is from Heflove wants to know Rozier or Garland. That is Garland over Rozier for me.
Yes, same.
Next question here. Einstein, will we play Cat and Gobert in the same lineup? I would not. If you're just hand building some lineups, or I would not want them together.
I would not either if I were hand building out and doing that.
All right. Next question here is Kenny Wayne wants to know, is 100% Kevin Love too much for 20 max? No, if that's kind of like what we said last night about DeAndre Jordan, if that's a stand you want to take, I think you could definitely play 100% of Kevin Love, and it wouldn't have a massive issue with it. Is 100% Kevin Love problematic for you in 20 lineups, Eric?
I would say probably not, but it's more of a risk tolerance thing when you're playing 100% of somebody than saying like, because Kevin Love is identifiably like he's a piece of chalk that people have identified as a cheap value piece that allows for them to do a lot of other things and it projects out well. So like, it's just a question of like, do you want to just have your entire night rely on Kevin Love? There you go. Enjoy.
Next question that we have is from Solvers Are Lame wants to know best utility 6,400 and under for a single entry on DK. So it's utility $6,400 or under. Let's see who's around that price point. 6,400. That is Jared Allen for me.
That's fine. Yeah, Jared Allen's fine.
Jared Allen's the answer. And then C Love wants to know Bridges or Siakam for DK.
Bridges or Siakam? Bridges is going to be for me.
So close.
Yeah, it's very close, but Bridges is. I mean, his ownership has come down today.
Siakam's is really low as well, though.
Yeah, I think the game environment of both, it's going to be lacking for both guys. I mean, Charlotte paced down, Toronto paced down to a certain extent. I don't know. Toronto's always paced down for themselves, but God, that's so close.
If you don't, yeah, it's very close. If you don't need the $200 in salary, then Bridges, he's $200. So like I get slightly more of Siakam, but it's mostly because he's $200 less expensive. So I'm going to go with Bridges there. Going to go with Bridges. And we are caught up on questions as well as at lock. So guys, don't go anywhere. And so I know I wanted to build lineups in the lineup generator, but we just kind of ran out of time. We got all those questions, wanted to make sure we answer. But don't forget, guys, the lineup generator, it is the most affordable tool that we have at stochastic.com. We had somebody last night who had a message Lofty on Twitter. I saw it right before the NFL slate. He signed up for the lineup generator, built one lineup in it. The one lineup that he built, he just threw it into the $5 single entry, took first place with it. So
that's
this
fun.
Is a tool that for this one guy who I'll find him on Twitter because I know I retweeted him.
I'm a fun guy. I like the game of basketball.
Do the laugh.
Some other questions you have to ask me.
That was better than I was expecting.
Thank you.
Because I did kind of put you on the spot because that's something I enjoy doing, and you came through there.
Thank you. I like to come through every once in a blue moon, and it's probably a 5% hit rate, so that's cool.
No, when you're on your impressions, it's probably a little bit better than that, to be honest.
Thank you.
Here it is.
Thank you.
It was Matt Lane. So Matt Lane on Twitter, his Twitter handle is PepMan1976. I want to give him a shout out. And here, Jordan's pulled it up here as well. Look at this. He signed up for the lineup generator. And right after signing up, just plays the one lineup, first place, wins a few $1,000s here. And the tool very clearly paid for itself because when you sign up using the promo code CYBER in the link below, you're getting access to it for less than $5. This deal is going to be ending tonight. So if you guys have been thinking about signing up for the lineup generator, take advantage of it now. It's always a very affordable tool. Like starting tomorrow, it'll go back to its normal price, $14.95. But still, if you're going to sign up, take advantage of the $4.95 deal and sign up using that link below in the promo code CYBER to get your discount. All right, Eric, we are starting up the, by the way, somebody in chat here saying, Greg, you not want anything in 2 years. All right, man. If you say so, if you say so.
Receipts, broski. Do people not understand that like you didn't just get this job because you got the job. Like you're pretty good at what you do. So there you go. I mean, I'm shit, but you're really good at what you do.
Exactly. So do you know I've won 5 GPPs in the last month.
That's absurd.
That's
I
not
got
bad.
second in the $4. That was cool. That's buoyed me for a little while.
That's not bad. I know, like, you can't come in first every night. John P saying I finished 9th in the $15 last night. It's not first. It's not last or anything, though.
Yeah.
It's not last.
If you ain't first, you're last. Well, hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that. You could be lots of other things. You could be second. You could be fourth. You could be 12th. Pays pretty good.
Yeah, I would like to have won a tournament more recently than a week ago, but I haven't. What can we do about it?
Yeah. All I did was get obliterated betting the last 2 days. So, I mean, DFS, kind of happy that it's just been kind of flatlined the last couple, because I don't think I played particularly well yesterday going through the post-contest sim, which is probably the most underutilized tool that we have here. Go to the post-contest simulator. Take a look at your ROI after the fact. Take a look at where ownership actually landed. In NFL, that's like invaluable type stuff that you can be getting to. But, obviously I've been using it NBA just because it's more of like a day-to-day thing for me.
By the way, shout out to Omar in the chat, because he was DMing with me a little bit. Well, not because he was DMing back and forth with me, but he won the $15 last night for 100K. Omar was usually in the chat and also DM me last night. Omar's also been on a really good run. He won a tournament. Like I'm trying to remember the timeline that Omar might know this. He definitely knows it better than me. But Omar won what, 50K like 6 weeks ago or something like that. And then last night he hit for 100K, won the $15. So Omar's been killing the game as well. I saw your DMs, man. So congrats to you. That was very good shit last night. Look at Malukar in the chat. He won $50 last night.
Let's go. Very nice. How much?
And listen, adjusted for inflation, when Malukar was our age, $50, that bought you like a house.
Yeah, it's truly, especially in Michigan. I think he's in Michigan.
I'm telling you, Malukar, good job by you too. So everybody, just big stuff in the chat.
Now you can fill up 1/4 of your tank of gas in the lower southwest of America. Good stuff.
When gas was Malukar, when you were a kid, what was the cost of gas? 3 cents a gallon?
Let's put a nickel on top of the thing and they let you drive off.
Omar says going back to back tonight. We'll see. I would love to see it.
Back to back AAU national championship. Fred McGriff.
I would love to see it. What are you
Tom
rooting for
Mansky
tonight?
Presents baseball. What
are you rooting for tonight? Like, what do you need to happen?
I don't fucking know. I don't know. Obviously, Miami to not go completely shit. Like, we need Miami players to play pretty decently. It's a game with a 230.5 total. Again, I am staring at this. 4.5. This is just insane. I think I got to do something about this.
All right, I'll ask the other way then. Who are you rooting against tonight? Who do you not want to do?
Oh, God. All right. I'm pretty positive the answer to that can be found in 2.2 seconds. Have we played like going through the ownership game? Because I played the $8 and the $4 today. I played 40 in the 8, 20 in the 4, and I didn't play the $15 today, so that felt good. I have no idea what the exposure is going to be or what the ownership is going to be in some of those spots, but I can tell you what it is in my tournaments. So I would like to see where some of these guys landed, and then I'll tell you more actively who I'm cheering against. Jakob Poeltl, 3.6% owned. I am cheering for Jakob Poeltl. I am apparently 10x the field, nearly 10x the field on that. That'll be an enjoyable experience. Mitchell Robinson, 19.6%. I'm cheering against that, I believe. That is for sure. So I'm working through some of this. Josh Richardson, only 41.7% ownership. All right. I'm pretty flat to that. That's nifty. Jared Allen, I'm pretty flat to that, right around 20%. Caleb Martin's only 37% owned in the $8. That I am aggressively cheering for Caleb Martin.
I have a 46% of Caleb Martin.
I have more than that. I'll put it that way.
And I'm pulling up the $15 here. I'm going to look at the CSV of all the most rostered players, and I'll compare it to my ownership to see what it is that I'm going to be rooting against. And I've got double-digit ownership to Evan Mobley, so I'll be rooting against him. Oh, no. Okay, there's somebody I'm clearly rooting against. Jaquez still came in over 30% owned. I'm rooting against him.
No, he didn't.
Jaquez
didn't.
Jaquez is 30.6% owned. I do not want him.
Let's go, daddy.
I'm trying to figure out what rooting. It was a very odd reaction you had there, Eric.
Well, because he wasn't in any of my fucking lineups. I was listing off guys that were in my lineups, and I didn't run into any of him. I know I am not at the field on that. I will tell you that much.
There's a lot of Jaquez coming off the bench. I'm rooting against Jaquez. I do not. This is the easiest one for me. Jaquez having a massive game would not be good for my night.
I have how much Jaquez? I don't have a lineup of him. So I don't think I have him in a lineup.
Who exactly is your daddy?
I don't know. I just felt like saying it. It felt good. It felt nice, didn't it? It rolled off the tongue.
It did feel pretty familiar when you said it. So Jaquez, who's coming in at over 30% ownership here.
Oh, we are cheering against this human being.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I do not want Jaquez to have a good game. I've got like really clear rooting.
I have 0% Jaquez. I didn't even notice that until just now, but it makes sense considering I was already down on him. And now I have 0%. Shit.
By the way, this is funny.
I'm back.
The Miami game already started.
What?
Is that true? Have you looked at the nonsense schedule we have next week while I'm pulling this up?
Yeah. So this week has been incredible as somebody who does a lot of his work the night before and, up until infinity o'clock doing whatever. I guess it doesn't count now that I was on the East Coast and I know that you work late every single night too. It's just relative to like, I still have to wake up and do the morning stuff at the normal times and whatever else. But like your day starts a lot later than like a normal job out on the East Coast for sure. Just seeing. Yeah, Eric just disconnected himself. Totally did. But I this week has been an incredible schedule. Just going like 5 games on Mondays, 5 games yesterday or whatever it was, or on Sunday. Like everything's been nice. It's been a nice week.
So I guess for you recording your videos, you might not mind it. It is shit for DFS because of this stupid in-season tournament. 2 game slate on Monday, 2 game slate on Tuesday, 2 game slate on Thursday.
Stop it. Next week?
Yeah, 3 out of 4 days, 2 game slates. And then Saturday's a 1 game slate, and there's no game on Sunday.
Punch me. That sucks. Somebody will take you up on that.
I will take you up on it. Super chat from RADM. He said, people have 2% where I play. How insane are they? 2% of what? Jaquez, I assume he means?
Oh.
So
dude, I can't believe that Jaquez ownership. That is insane. I am very, very much cheering against him. So 40 incoming for Jaime Jaquez.
Shout out to Phil Senzig in the chat. He got the Black Friday Sims and then tripled up the last 2 nights. So a couple of nights here using the Sims tool and Phil tripling his money. So good stuff. Love to see it from Phil. If you guys want to sign up for our NBA package, there's a link for that below as well. The current ongoing deal, though, is for the lineup generator, the Cyber deal, which gets you access to that for less than $5 and use the promo code CYBER, SYBER, all capital letters.
Should have bet Milwaukee. Already 8-2. Game's over. And we can all go home.
Well, who scored the first bucket for the Heat, though?
I don't know. That Bam, of course. Bam, there it was.
Makes sense. I didn't get to a ton of Bam.
7.9% in the $8. Kind of wild to see that.
He was
looking at this.
Center eligible over 9K.
Yeah, it makes sense that he wasn't. And obviously Milwaukee, Brook Lopez, hello. Like, not that defense needs to be factored in that kind of way, but if you're not going to be a spot up 3-point shooter against Brook Lopez, he is confirmed flipped his life around the last couple of years as a defender. He is so damn good now.
Yeah, $9,200 for Bam on DraftKings, center eligible only. I mean, it's a steep price point to pay there. And then over on FanDuel, let's see. So FanDuel, Bam, I'm trying to remember the price off the top of my head. So just looking it up. Bam on FanDuel. It didn't help that. As per usual, this happens all the time when I'm trying to look stuff up. My browser just crashes on me and it will not allow me to. So let's see. What was Bam's price point on FanDuel? Bam on FanDuel. Yeah, $9,200 also was center only eligible. Can only play one. So it was just hard to get all the way up there.
Oh, it's 12-2. They're just absolutely torching them. It is not even competitive. Why am I so even when I have good ideas and it just screams to you, you still don't pull the trigger on it. That's good job. Good job. Good effort, Eric.
You got some FOMO regrets now?
A little bit.
So this is in-season tournament games, which are always no different than
Bam Adebayo had 5 field goal attempts in the first 3.5 minutes of this game.
Did he make any of them?
1, good job, good effort.
Yeah, 2 points and a rebound, 1 of 5 shooting. And we got Duncan Robinson, 0 of 2, Kevin Love, 0 of 1. Rough start for the Miami Heat tonight. Definitely looks like the blowout is potentially in play here. Let's build some lineups in the Sims for Showdown tonight. I want to see what we can get to for Showdown, Jordan. And then Eric and I will look for some bets in Odd Shopper as well. I've got my insider access channel. I've got that going up over on Odd Shopper. I can now tag some of my favorite bets, so that shows up on Odd Shopper. If you guys are looking to sports bet, it's less than $50 per month. We got a link for that below as well, and just where you can get access. Hang out with Eric and I even more often than you already do on the show and get some betting information from us.
It's pretty cool.
Right here, we are building lineups for tonight's game. Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings. I'm interested to see what we get for the Showdown slate. And let's see if we had any other questions that came into Discord. And we do. JEW says one of his main DK single entry ended up with Gobert and Towns in it. All we have left open is those two and Şengün. Any pivots? If that's just what you have, it's not the end of the world. But my preference would be to not play them together if you have the option. But since the slate's already started, you probably have a bunch of Heat players locked. Is it like the end of the world, Eric? Would you consider it catastrophic that he has Towns and Gobert in the same lineup?
No.
Yeah, let it ride.
I don't think that game has started yet.
No, but I'm saying that it's hard. He only has 3. He only has 3 spots.
Got it.
Entire lineup.
Yeah. Yep. Gotcha. Makes sense.
He's got Cat. He's got Gobert. And he's got Şengün. I don't want to make him overall everything.
I don't have a problem with having them together.
All right. Let's see what we have for Jordan's running the sim there. So we'll see what shows up for that game. And I'll do a live update here on the Miami Heat, who are still stuck on 2 points. We've got the Miami Heat have 2 points, all coming on the back of Bam Adebayo. The team is 1 of 8 from the field. And then on the other side of the game, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, who are 6 of 9 from the field. Every single starter from the Bucks has made a field goal so far. It's not looking great for the Miami Heat.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
Are we panicking about any of our Heat exposure?
No, because they have to play minutes. Like these dudes have to still play. Love doesn't have to, no, but I didn't end up with 57% of him. So
let's see what we get to here. So we're built lineups out for the Showdown slate tonight. That is the Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings. And as far as exposures, can you start, Jordan? Filter by the captains. Yes, thank you, kind sir. All right, so captains, we're getting to the most of Fox, followed by Steph Curry, Domantas Sabonis, Draymond Green at 9%. So no real surprise, the pay-up option showing up most frequently. Fox, then Curry, then Sabonis. If you're looking at a little bit off the board, our data is liking Draymond Green there. Eric, did you get much exposure to Kings Warriors for the main slate?
No. Sabonis, I got a little bit. De'Aaron Fox, I got a little bit. Klay Thompson, I got a little bit, which is never fun. But yeah, this spot is not ultra appealing, that's for sure. Malik Monk was the highest owned player from that entire game. I think he was like at 8.5%. Nobody else above 5.5%. And it's pretty wild. It's just, Draymond Green back. Everything becomes just muted. And none of these numbers are all that reflective for him being back. You do get Sacramento. There's a couple of pieces on Sacramento that you can always go to those upside pieces, the Malik Monks, the Sabonis's, and Kevin Herter can go out and flamethrow from time to time. But like these are all 1 or 2% darts you could get anywhere throughout this slate.
Oh boy, Bam Adebayo, rebound, turnover. Oh, Lowry's on the board with the rebounds. Lowry also missed a shot. This Miami. Oh, by the way, Lowry also doesn't have to play minutes tonight. If they're getting smoked.
Oh yeah, no, then you're royally screwed. Yeah, this game is just disturbing. I will say it makes me have a little FOMO about Jamal Cain.
True.
I got 10% of him. I think I didn't see where he was.
The way this game is going, the Heat are going to lose like 20 to 140, and nobody's going to score any fantasy points from them.
Well, then that'll be tough.
It's the way things are going right now. Let's look at the flex plays here, Jordan. So if anybody's building lineups for Showdown tonight, they get an idea of what it is that our data is liking here, some players to build around, and then we'll look for some bets, and then we'll call it a night. And if you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, in the flex spot, we're getting to a lot of Draymond Green. So Draymond Green, mid-range play. He was also our most rostered captain, who is not one of the studs in this game. And then we've got stars here, Curry, Sabonis, Fox. Let's scroll down, Jordan. I want to see what value plays we might have gotten to. Keep going down. I want to see what cheapies. I mean, Harrison Barnes, relatively cheap. Trey Lyles showing up in about a third of lineups. We got Looney in a third of lineups. Dario Saric in a third of lineups. So you guys are looking to save salary tonight. It does look like Saric, Looney, like those are the guys you want to be going to. As a punt play, we do have a 14% of JaVale McGee showing up in lineups. Not projected for all that many fantasy points, but he's always very cheap, especially in some of those showdown games there. People saying, oh, the Heat stink. Hey, don't speak too quick. Kyle Lowry just hit a shot. They've doubled their point total so far. They've scored 4 points halfway through the 7. Who just hit a 3? Somebody hit a 3.
Duncan Robinson.
All right, Duncan Robinson. I do not.
He's got 3, 2, and 1. And Kevin Love, he got there. Jaime Jaquez coming in. Now our watch begins because they're looking for somebody. They need a hero. Caleb Barton, here we go. His watch begins. This will be an enjoyable experience. Nice start from Josh Richardson. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Oh, for 1, actually. There's a 1.
Who came in, and who came out for the Heat?
Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love came out, and Bam Adebayo came out.
All right. Bam could really be cucked this game also. If they're going to, he might be $9,200 and score 20 fantasy points. I'm not feeling great about the Hawkeye, about how underweight we are to Hawkeyes right now.
It's feeling uncomfortable. But Caleb Martin, there he is. There is my daddy.
Yeah, I think you should stop doing that, to be honest.
Okay, I will.
I think you should. We'll see. Maybe chat feels differently. Anything else that stands out to you about the showdown for tonight?
Wait, Kevin Love's still on the floor. Kevin Love assists. Yeah, there we go. So Kevin Love did not check out. It was Bam Adebayo and who else checked out? Duncan Robinson. There you go.
All right. So the Heat are really aiming to just get obliterated this game. The only 2 guys that have done anything for them so far is oh my God, we're down. We're only down 8. We got to take these guys off.
Josh Richardson, bucket. God, we're all watching this same shitty basketball game. This is enjoyable. Nothing like a 12-5, 10-7 matchup that doesn't have Jimmy Butler and the Bucks. 12-5 quietly, despite the fact that everybody thinks the sky is falling on them for some reason. It's silly.
Ooh, all right. Kevin Love, about 2 rebounds, 2 assists for Kevin Love. Not bad.
No, he's also daddy. He's also daddy.
Kevin Love has arrived. He's arrived on the scene.
I want you to guess the score halfway through the first quarter of Toronto and Brooklyn. Just guess it.
All right. So I only have Milwaukee, Miami up on my phone.
Yep. I want you to guess.
8-6.
7-6. Really well done. 7-6 halfway through the frickin' first quarter. Why are things the way that they are? Nicholas Claxton, 4-4. Yo, I saw somebody made them the nuke of the night. I ended up having a little bit of him. I didn't have 0, that's for sure.
Heat on fire. 11 points they're up to now.
Yeah. And totally redeem yourself. This is why you don't freak out, Greg. Yeah, I got 4 shares out of 60 of Nick Claxton. That's nifty.
Nope. You gotta freak out, or else what are we even doing here for not?
Yeah, I guess. There you go. Is that better?
Let's look for some bets in Odd Chopper.
Sure.
And that will bring us home for the night. If you guys have any questions for us and you're in Discord as a Stochastic member, at me so we could answer those before we finish up here, because there was no more questions that came in, but I want to make sure there aren't any final thoughts there that are outstanding. One thing I want to put up here, can you click on Jordan? He's already doing his filters. I kind of feel bad for him. I was going to show the expert picks page now, where you can get the pro picks and advice.
Oh, weird, Aton. I updated it, Aton. Thanks for coming, Aton. Have a good day, Aton.
Expert picks. Yeah, you could see the different bets that we like for the day, when we placed them, what the line is. So if you guys see here, like earlier today in my Discord and put it, I had Karl Anthony Towns. I liked him minus 113 for under 9.5 rebounds. And now the line is minus 130. So really something that I try to prioritize is figuring out like where's the market going to move? Because if you could beat the market over the long haul, you're probably going to be pretty profitable at sports betting. So I'm always trying to identify which lines I think are going to end up moving, and I try to beat that line movement. You can see that is something that I did there with Karl Anthony Towns. And then I also have a bet that I placed for Thursday Night Football on DK Metcalf. Just going to be on the page somewhere. Just click on me. Yeah, DK Metcalf. I had other ones I put up there too, except they do go down after the game has started. So I got DK Metcalf there for over 4.5 receptions. If you guys want to sign up for Odd Shopper, get access to all of our EV betting, and then also the information that Eric and I give out, you get into our Discord channel. You can sign up using the link below. Any bets that you like for the rest of the night, Eric?
Yeah, Golden State.
Okay. Did you just add
Plus,
that right there?
Nope. It is what it's been. It's been there the whole time here. Again, I got it at plus 118 yesterday. It just moved back to that number. So the one thing that we got to be able to do is change it so you can kind of get the number where it's actually where you got it at. But that's neither here nor there. This is an amazing upgrade for the experience of being able to get picks, be able to have the opportunity to know, oh, what changed? What is the line at my book? How does it compare across the entire industry? So plus 118, best available number, FanDuel.
Yeah, looking at some of the lines for the rest of the night, and one that's up now that I didn't see earlier because it wasn't a line that existed earlier when I was placing bets before the show. Malik Monk, under 4.5 assists. The line is minus 110. We have the fair line projected at minus 131.
Ooh.
So, yeah, that is pretty appealing looking. You can really see
Honestly,
why also.
I'm going to take a look and see what that is on Underdog, too, to bring it home for us. Again, being able to compare some of these lines, like I know there's ways to go about doing things. Yeah, so at Underdog, he's got a 4. It's just a flat 4. So that is a drastically different number. I hope people understand those hooks, how insanely valuable that is when you're talking about taking it under a 4.5, being able to see what that fair value is, and then know that you're not going to necessarily utilize it at 4 on the number there on Underdog.
Yeah, and one thing that I always like to look at as far as just information, right? Like, why do some of these bets project well based on a market-based model here is you can really tell, all right, so FanDuel has the line here. If you press that button to the left there, Jordan, see that little arrow, look at the line FanDuel has compared to every other book. FanDuel has it at minus 110. The next best line is minus 135 at ESPN Bet and Tipico. It's minus 146 on the under at Pinnacle, minus 145 at DraftKings. So it's spots like that where you can really identify, like, all right, this is an outlier line. It has value. It's why it's projecting well in our market-based algorithm. And then also a lot of times these are lines that are going to end up moving as you get closer to lock. So that is a line that I like right there, under 4.5.
Also, for people who don't know, this is something that, I've been using Odd Chopper forever, it feels like, and I didn't know this until about a couple of months ago, but the odds are supposed to, in most cases, it is correctly done, where it's best to worst line from left to right across the page. So as you look at Malik Monk, under 4.5 assists for a minus 110, then you move to ESPN Bet, minus 135 under 4.5, and it progresses up. But then what's so interesting is you go to other plays where, they might go from 4.5, it might be 3.5 at a different book. It will rank it based on what those odds are because, again, 3.5, well, shit, what's the fair line on that? It does the work for you, and it's all based off of what those true odds end up being, and it will evaluate it even in the difference between assists, points, things of that nature, because obviously one assist is not the same as 1 point in terms of difficulty of what you're looking at or an attainment of it. So, it's not like everything carries a different value and a different weight, and those true odds do the work for you. But yeah, best odds on the left side of the page, going to the right side of the page, the least advantageous line to bet.
18-19. The Heat have come all the way back. 18-19 now. We've got
Let's
Josh
go.
Richardson is
So glad I didn't bet it.
Kyle Lowry, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block for Kyle Lowry. Caleb Martin's off the bench with 5 points and a rebound.
How is Nuke of the Night doing? Can we check in on Julius Randle? 11-2. Let's fucking go, kids.
Yep. Julius Randle, the original Dr. J. Julius Randle. People don't know this, but Julius Erving was named after Julius Randle. He's up to 11 points and 2 rebounds. Jalen Brunson, big old stinkeroo right now, no points, 2 assists, a steal, a rebound. So we've got the Knicks up 21-11, and nobody's doing anything from this team other than your guy Julius Randle. How does it make you feel?
Feels empowering. Empowering is the right word for it.
Cool. Eric saying Nuke in the chat. Have you tweeted out Nuke at all since your incident?
No, I have not tweeted out Nuke since my incident. It has been precisely however many days since our last accident on the little board, the visual board in the back of my head. Jerk. Why do you pick on me so much? Can we talk about this? Like, can we do a couples therapy session sometime?
No.
Okay.
So if people aren't aware, because this is a while ago.
Julius Randle steal. Oh. Nuke of the night.
Feeling pretty good about yourself over there. By the way, guess what just happened? Malik Monk just moved from -110 to -130 on the under on the assists. Got in on that line value.
And an assist to Josh Hart. Oh my God. It hurts. Not my heart. It feels good.
Do you have Josh Hart exposure?
No. God, no. It's just Julius Randle. Just can continue to accumulate stats. I heard you get fantasy points for assists. You mean wombat, you
said assist to Josh Hart.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh, Julius Randle got an assist on a Josh Hart bucky.
Let me see if you know this movie. Robbie Hart, you're going to make some boy so happy, or some girl so happy one day. What movie?
The Fellas in the Gang Bus 3.
Oh, it's Wedding Singer.
His name's Robbie Hart. Listen, I'm just trying to figure out what I think it is you've watched recently. Would you have known that one, Jordan?
No, he had no clue. He's too young. Too young. He never got to see it. However, if you're looking for a good watch, it truly bangs every single time. Wedding Singer is a very, very underrated movie.
Wedding Singer is awesome.
It's a great freaking movie.
Any final thoughts here, Eric? We've got like 30 seconds left, and then it's curtains.
That was the fastest 90-minute. Again, all these 90-minute shows fly when you get news, when you're doing stuff. I'm sure Jordan feels the opposite of us, but helps to have the Nuke of the Night off to a great start. May it continue. May they keep it somewhat close. Josh Green is starting for the Mavs tonight. Were we expecting that?
I could tell you.
We were. Cool. Never mind.
I could tell you the Josh Green start when, was it Luka who was out that night? Or no, it was Kyrie was out. That one didn't go very well.
No, yeah, Josh Green is freaking starting tonight. So that's something. He's 3,600. Son of a biscuit. I got to run some shit. And we just hit lock.
Thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take advantage of the Cyber Monday deal if you want access to the lineup generator for less than $5. $4.95, easiest tool to use over at Stochastic, is going to build the lineups for you. And they're lineups that are plus EV expected lineups. So take advantage of the lineup generator and that promo code CYBER using the link below. Have a great night tonight, guys, and see you back here tomorrow.